says live on the top right-hand part of the screen, so I think it's live now.
All right. Yeah, so we are live. So welcome to everybody who was watching both live and past live. So this is the August monthly member and Patreon live chat. So as you all know, we kind of just get together and there's no agenda. We just talk about whatever's on our hearts and minds. We rant, we laugh about things, and hell, sometimes we don't even talk politics. We talk about other stuff, video games, maybe Game of Thrones, I don't know. But so we'll go ahead and have everyone in the chat introduce themselves. So we'll start with chat regular, boy genius, Cam himself. Cam, how's it going?
I'm good. Just been dealing with the common ignorance towards what socialism and humanism are. It gets kind of annoying. So I'm probably going to rant about that later on in the chat.
We'll go for it. We'll go for it.
Good.
All right. So who's else in the chat?
Me.
How's it going, Fabrice?
I'm good.
Your horse picture is vaguely familiar. I don't know if you've been on before. Have you?
I was there the last time, but I didn't have the gear, so I geared up. Now I don't have a webcam, but I have a headset now. So
Hey, that works.
So if you can hear me all right.
Yeah, I can hear you for sure. It's a little soft, but I mean, for the most part, we can hear you. So yeah, welcome to the chat. And we also have David in the chat. David, is this your first time?
Yes, this is my first time.
Well, how's it going? Where are you from?
I'm from Dallas, Texas.
Very cool. Okay, so nice. Yeah, we have a lot of people who come in from like more conservative states, and they always have such interesting points of view.
Yeah, and I've also got an interesting point of view in that I come from a higher income family.
Okay.
So there's also that.
I
know that Cam is probably contemplating jumping out of his window, but whatever.
Well, hey, we'll roll with it. We'll have an interesting discussion. And then we also have Audivia. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name right. Welcome to the chat. Where are you from?
I believe Audivia is muted.
Oh yeah, let me see if
your mic is off.
Sorry, that was my bad.
There we go.
Yeah, Audivia is just my username, but I'm from Sweden anyway.
Cool. Very cool. Well, welcome to the chat. I don't think I recognize you, so this is your first time?
Yeah.
Very cool, very cool. Okay, and then we have Vince who's back. Last time it was Vince was, I believe that was you, right, with the fires creeping up on you and you had to evacuate?
Yeah, we didn't end up getting evacuated, but the fire came within a half mile of my house. And now it's raining.
Oh, I bet that's actually a pretty nice change then compared to what you've been dealing with.
Oh, we had a fire yesterday.
Oh my gosh. Well, we're glad that you're okay because it was kind of freaky last time. For those who haven't seen the old chat, you can actually go back and watch it. Yeah, he basically let us know when we started. So I can kind of see the fires from my house. So if I have to leave abruptly, then yeah, it's because I had to evacuate. But you're okay. So that's what matters because that was kind of freaky. So we're glad that you're here. I know in Texas right now they're having just
Harvey
craziness. How's that going? Are you okay over there?
So yeah, I'm all right. So with the way it is, Harvey is absolutely destroying Houston right now. But with where Dallas is way to the north. So as it stands right now, Dallas is absolutely fine.
That's good to know.
Houston,
man,
wow.
Yeah, I'm seeing some of the pictures, and it's just like it's really, really heartbreaking.
And I've been there. It's just words cannot explain it. It is just crushing.
Yeah, it's hard to see when it hits like so close to home. That's your state, and if you've been there and you just see like portions of it just underwater, it's crazy.
I mean, I've been there maybe once or twice, but still, this is a place I know, and it's just ravaged.
Right.
It's just words cannot explain.
Man, what was that, Fabrice?
Yes.
Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I really think this has something to do with climate change. Rising sea levels, more moisture, more ocean temperatures rising, and that's causing more severe hurricanes. I really think that's the reason why we're seeing such a tragedy right now in Houston. That's just my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Sure. No, I agree with that.
I think I remember seeing somewhere that this was a once in 500 years storm, and this isn't even as bad as Katrina. So, and Katrina was, when you put it into perspective, not all that long ago.
Yeah.
So, what does that say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's difficult to tell like if something is directly caused by climate change, but almost in all circumstances, it's exacerbated by climate change. It's worse than it typically would be. It's crazy, and it's more frequent too. Like these types of hurricanes are much more frequent now because of climate change. It sucks.
And I can tell you right now, I'm noticing differences personally. This is probably the first summer that I've noticed where it has consistently been above 100 degrees every single day.
Man.
And yeah, it's brutal as well, since I have a job as a courtesy clerk, and I basically have to go outside and bring carts in.
Oh, that's terrible.
Dude, yeah, that is brutal.
I did that before, so I 100% feel your pain. You feel like you're going to die. I worked for Walmart, and I did the carts. I didn't do it all the time. Like, we kind of took turns with it. But
yeah, same here.
It was awful when you had to go outside, and you had to, like, I would try to do as much carts as I possibly could just because I wanted to get it over with. But then you just like wear yourself out, and it was just, you feel like you're going to die. Man, I feel your pain. I completely feel your pain, David. So we'll kind of get
at least.
Oh, go ahead.
At least this terrible courtesy clerk job is motivating me to get a better job when I'm an adult.
Yeah, man, that's kind of, you kind of start, and then if you hate your job enough when you're super young, then you end up trying to do something different, because that's kind of, you know, I started with Subway, went to Blockbuster, Walmart, all the shit jobs that I hated, and it really motivates you to try to do something different if you hate it enough. Okay, so one thing that I do want to say is, so typically what happens with Google Hangouts is any noise that it picks up, it'll automatically switch to your camera. So if you have like a bunch of background noise, then just mute it while someone else is talking. Otherwise, we'll be good. It seems like there's not too much white noise, so we should be good. So first things first, one of the biggest news articles, or I don't necessarily know that there's a lot of articles to come out of it, but the biggest news this week for us certainly is the dismissal of the DNC fraud lawsuit. I was hoping to talk to you guys about that, because that was really, really disappointing, especially when you kind of dive into the details. And I haven't done a thorough like review of it. I plan to do it for the show. But basically, I don't know if you guys saw this yet. The judge admitted that Debbie Wasserman Schultz pretty much favored Hillary Clinton, but dismissed it. So what it seemed to me was that, yeah, they rigged it, but legally there's nothing that we can do. So I wanted to get your guys' take on that, and whether or not you were shocked or not, because I wasn't necessarily shocked that it was dismissed, but I was shocked that the judge actually admitted that, yeah, it was rigged, but you know, you can't do anything about that legally. Yeah. So what did you guys think about that? Does anybody want to kind of chime in?
It's not shocking.
I expected it.
It's not.
I'm not shocked at the actual ruling, but what I am shocked over is not Democratic politicians, but just your average Democratic Party members online are all backing it, saying, hey, if you want a voice, then join the Democratic Party.
Yeah. The most ironic statement ever.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 17 years old. I'm going to be registering to vote. You're definitely making a good case for me to join the Democratic Party with arguments like that.
Well, I mean, David, when you hear them say that they can pick candidates in a smoke-filled room by themselves, that doesn't make you want to become a Democrat? I mean, come on, man.
No.
Well,
there's a democracy.
My response is get rid of your superdelegate system and actually have real votes, and then maybe I'll become a Democrat.
That would be a great start.
My response is, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, I'm exiting the party. And I exited the party a couple months ago.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I was there too.
Good for you.
Go ahead, Audavia.
I said fool can't get fooled again.
Yes, I was gonna say that.
I left.
That's good.
I dem exited.
But I'm in Sweden. I can't join their Democratic Party.
Well, it's just having your perspective is great, because for me, I really look up to people in Sweden, just because I feel like you guys are doing things the right way. And of course, you know, we had Cam, I don't know if you could remember, we had someone from Scandinavia on last time. Maybe it was from I'm completely blanking now, but she was telling us about her party.
It was she was from Norway.
Norway, that's right. Okay, yeah. And so it's always fascinating to hear the differences between there and here, and even how Bernie Sanders is kind of having an influence on politics way over there. I mean, it's so mind-blowing to me, and it's always fascinating. How are things going in Sweden politically? I mean, do you feel satisfied as a citizen? I know that's a huge, broad question, but just generally speaking, because for me as an American, I'm pissed.
I don't keep up as well with Swedish politics nowadays. I used to pay attention a little bit more, but I'm a little bit isolated right now. So, and I don't just me and reading. I just kind of prefer to listen to something. So there are not as many channels to listen to like yours. So it's not as easy to, you know, keep up with for someone who doesn't, you know, read that much. Not because I can't read, you know, but for other reasons. The only things that I kind of, you know, notice are changing is the stuff that, you know, affects me directly, which is more, you know, within the psychological healthcare and all that stuff. That's really been getting worse because there are less resources and stuff like that. So I can only make assumptions from that, and that is we're spreading a bit more thin than we're used to, and I don't really want to make guesses on why. I mean, a lot of people, you know, just kind of go with it's the immigrants and all that stuff, but I don't actually know, you know, I don't actually know what is the reason. So I'm kind of keeping my hands off and just kind of observing for now.
Well, and that's great though. That's a really great thing to do. And one thing that I've kind of,
it's easy to just kind of go with what people are saying, and that is just the one reason, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. I totally get that. And you know, one thing that I've kind of noticed is that if things are going relatively well in your country, then you kind of have less of a reason to kind of really stay focused and pay attention. But if things are going worse in your country, what I noticed from people, and this is completely anecdotal, but you know, if things are getting worse in your country, then a lot more people are engaged in politics. They may not necessarily be engaged in the right type of politics. I mean, they may try to scapegoat immigrants for economic issues. They may, you know, what people resort to, you know, it varies. But if you see more people engaged, then I think that that's probably a sign. Not necessarily, but you know, at least with people I've talked to, that things aren't going too well. So yeah, I think that's interesting.
I don't think I'm a very good example, though. So I'm less engaged in the current climate than most are, because I'm kind of just, like I said, I'm kind of isolated at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hey, you're here and whatnot, so it's always interesting to get your perspective.
I think it's kind of interesting to just kind of observe how different things are, even if, you know, just in general in America. And often it's kind of perplexing and kind of fascinating. But I just really got sucked into it because of Bernie Sanders. He really, you know, got under my skin.
Yeah, that's
come to America.
That story is very similar. Like, a lot of people got into politics for the first time because of Bernie Sanders. Like my mom, for example, she registered to vote finally, and she's something because of Bernie Sanders. You know, people are coming around because of Bernie. So it's crazy to see that effect that he's having, like, around the world. You know, we're on opposite sides of the globe, and it's just so neat to hear that. So yeah, I'm really glad to hear your perspective there.
I mean,
I think it's because, you know, across the world, people are really frustrated with politicians not being, you know, genuine in any way, any stretch of the imagination. Everyone are, you know, really frustrated with this whole polished surface, you know, and hiding shit, and we don't know what the fuck is going on. Sorry about this.
Exactly.
No, feel free.
Because nobody knows what is going on, and it's really frustrating because so much stuff. I think this is, all over the world, really, that people are just tired of things being kept behind closed walls and curtains and all that shit, and there's all this pretty facade, and then comes Bernie, and he's, very emotional, and he doesn't do this shit. And...
Yeah, we're tired of politics as theater. I think that you're speaking for all of us, because I think I don't know if I posted the video yet. I hate when politicians, like, they'll do this. They'll have it perfectly, like they'll have like their pointer out and their thumb, and they'll talk like this. That drives me nuts. I hate when they do that. I automatically dismiss them when they do that, because that's what a focus group told them to do.
Yep.
I love it. He points out his finger against someone.
Well,
I kind of like Trump's hand movements. They're funny.
Yeah, I do as well.
They're funny to look at.
And I actually do some of them, which is
Same!
it's easy
They're
to
the best hand movements.
no, but like this. I've always done it. So.
Well, he doesn't. You notice that he doesn't just do that in isolation. He'll do that, and then it'll be kind of like a. But Bernie's the best. He just flaps his arms. Like, I just love
Can we free college?
Bernie,
as Kyle Kulinski said it best. He is, a Jewish, maybe atheist socialist who doesn't comb his hair with bad posture. That's the best way to put it.
He has horrible posture. Have you ever seen a picture of Bernie Sanders from like the side? I was like, oh my God, my back is hurting just looking at you. Bernie, stand up straight. What are you doing? But that's why, like,
I wish Bernie was a socialist. I wish.
Well, that's why, the thing about Bernie is that people like him because he's authentic. Like, I'm so tired of people who are rehearsed. Like, we all are human beings. You don't have to present yourself as this perfect individual. You don't have to present yourself as a robot. Like, nobody likes that. Like, if you throw out a couple of F-bombs every now and then, if you, stumble over yourself when you speak, I think that that's more appealing and enduring than someone just trying to be a rehearsed politician like Hillary Clinton all the time that talks like this. Or if you're the Cory Booker, then, I'm like this, where he tries to be a little bit more genuine, but it's a fake, authenticity. It's just, you can tell if somebody's bullshitting you, and that's what the politicians don't understand, and I hate it.
I mean, I remember not too long ago, the congressman from my district, Pete Sessions, actually came and spoke at my school, and you could tell the entire time he was just pandering.
Really?
It was garbage.
For a school? A school?
Yeah. Okay. So I actually go to a private. Okay. So I actually go to a private school for students with learning differences, and I'm just going to say this right now. Basically, it's unaffordable for average Americans. The tuition of my school is more expensive than the tuition of most of the colleges I'm looking at. So
I'm gonna jump out my window.
But so about that, Pete Sessions came and spoke to my school. So for those who don't know who Pete Sessions is, he is not related to Jeff Sessions.
I was gonna ask you that, actually.
He's not related to Jeff Sessions, but he's worse than Jeff Sessions.
Mm-hmm.
And dang.
Yeah, that's difficult.
That's very difficult.
I mean, he's got a lower rating from the ACLU than Jeff does. I mean, Jeff Sessions has a rating of 22 from the ACLU. Pete Sessions, it's 8. So I don't need to elaborate there. But he came to my school and he spoke about Earth Day, and he talked about
right?
Yeah. Well, no one actually asked him questions about that, but he talked about, we're gonna be doing this thing at this lake that's in Dallas, where we're gonna be cleaning up trash, pretty much. And I was like, well, why don't you? I was thinking this in my head. Why don't you address climate change while we're at it? And he has a record, of course, that's against climate change, where he's pretty much like, climate change doesn't exist. Bull crap.
That's so funny how they pretend to care about the Earth and speak at your school on Earth Day when he's paid to deny climate change effectively.
Yeah, I mean, I remember after his speech, I looked at his open secrets file, and you saw a lot of pharmaceutical companies, banks, and oil companies. So, yeah.
What did you
These
guys
politicians hate open secrets so much, and I love it.
Yeah.
What did you guys expect to happen?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, we live in a
it's
bourgeois
tough.
system. We live in a bourgeois political system. Of course, this was gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not willing to admit that climate change is a thing until it's undeniable, and we're kind of crossing that line to where it's undeniable. Not that you can deny it already, but when you really start to see the consequences and people are really feeling it, at least in the United States, because I mean, other countries are saying, Mike, what are you talking about? We're feeling it, but I mean, like for us, when we really start to feel it, and and whatnot, then I think the politicians, they won't be able to deny it, even if they're bought off by the industry. And I think that what's ultimately going to happen is we're going to see this transition. And this is, of course, speculation. But what I think will probably happen is that there's going to be a new economic boom for like green technology. And they're going to be so big that they're going to be buying off the politicians, and they're going to be outspending the oil companies. And that pretty much will be the only chance when we start to tackle climate change. So it's frustrating that the only way to really advance, climate change legislation is to have some other industry emerge and be big enough to buy off more politicians than the oil and gas industry. But that's really the way it works in a capitalist system.
Yeah. And what's shocking about that?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh,
so what's
go ahead.
shocking about that is in Texas, we actually are the leader. We actually are the leaders out of all 50 states in renewable energy, and we still rely a lot on fossil fuels. I mean, Houston, I think, is pretty much the oil capital of the United States. So,
wow,
it's
that's
interesting.
actually really interesting. I didn't know that. Fabrice, did you want to say something? Because it's a little bit. I want to let Fabrice cut in here because it's kind of difficult to hear him. So I wanted to make sure that he is able to speak. What was it that you wanted to say, Fabrice?
Well, I'm sorry, I'm pretty much silent here, I guess. Do you hear me?
Oh, it's no problem. We can hear you a little bit, but your mic is a bit softer. So if you are talking at the same time as someone else, then Google will just switch to their camera probably. But if you wanted to, feel free to share your thoughts.
But I'm just here because I'm a European. I'm in Belgium, and I'm pretty much open to any questions you might have to what is going on in Europe and how we handle things here. So if you have any questions about our healthcare system or how we handle climate change, feel free to ask any question.
I would love to ask you some questions. I actually have a friend who's from Belgium, and he tells me that basically the people of Belgium, like, they're really polarized, but at the same time, you guys get a lot of stuff done. Like, you actually take care of your people. What is your take on that? Because I know that politics is pretty divisive in Belgium. Is he correct in saying that?
Yeah, that's exactly true. It's because we have two different languages in Belgium. We have Dutch, French, and German. And
have Walloons and Flanders already split?
Yeah.
Have Walloons and Flanders finally split from each other?
Well, let me just go on. So those three different parts of Belgium are very separated. We have different cultures, but we always manage to democratically settle our differences and go on. That's kind of a model for Europe. We were one of the first countries in Europe to form the EU. So that's how I think about it. You can get along if you go with good diplomacy and understanding.
That's really interesting to me. And what really put things into perspective for me about Belgium is that I don't know when it was. I think it was in the late 2000s. Maybe you can correct me. When they had an election, but they actually didn't form a government until like a year afterwards because they couldn't agree. Is that true?
That's true. Yes.
But at the same time, though, you guys have phenomenal policies. So my friend who is from Belgium, he's actually transgender. So back when he was female, he was married to another woman, and this was before marriage equality was legal in the U.S. So him and his wife would have to go back to Belgium, and they ended up moving there. And he didn't want to do that because his wife is like the youngest of like 10 kids. So they have so much family here, not very much family in Belgium. So I kind of got like some perspective on Belgian politics from him. And now he's finally living in the US. He actually lives in Portland. But yeah, just the stories that he tells me about how divisive it is, but yet at the same time, oddly enough, things get done. It blows my mind because I can't even imagine it, you know, in the United States, because we hate each other so much and things don't get done here. So to imagine, you know, people hating each other but still getting things done, I mean, that to me is amazing. And like you said, it's kind of like the way of life there. At the end of the day, you come together and you do stuff, you know, for the people.
Like it's not like it's ideal here in Belgium, not at all.
Sure,
So
sure.
we have a parliamentary system, and actually in the south of Belgium, socialists won big time the last election. And they
I heard
don't
socialists
have any say in the government right now. Don't have any say because of coalition building. So it's not perfect, but it works. It kind of works, more or less.
Right. That's kind of the double-edged sword with parliamentary systems, at least ones that are proportional, because, you know, you might have a party that gets a pretty big amount of the vote. They might even win a plurality. But, you know, if they don't have enough to form a government, or if nobody wants to join a coalition with them, then you could kind of get shut out, and it sucks.
Get shut out. Exactly.
Yeah, that's the one thing about parliamentary systems that does kind of bug me. I don't know. How do you feel about like manufactured majorities? Because like, for example, in the UK, they have parliamentary, but if you win, all you need is a plurality and you end up getting like this huge majority, like you get bonuses. Is it pretty proportional in Belgium, meaning that, you know, if you get 30% of the vote, you get about 30% of seats?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. It's not like if you win, you get everything, you know?
Right.
It's
See,
not
that's
like in the US.
That's very interesting to me, because ideally, like you always think the more proportional, the better. Like as close as we can get to, you know, well, if we won 10% of the vote, we get 10% of seats. You always think that's better, but at the same time, that does make it more difficult if you're kind of alone, if you're one type of party and you don't have any other parties that are ideologically close to you, then forming a government sucks. So like the socialists, if they gain a ton of seats, then they might be shut out. That is frustrating. So I do feel your pain there. Let's take a moment here and say hi to Lisa. Lisa's back. How's it going, Lisa?
Hey.
Lisa!
Yay!
Welcome back to the chat. Lisa was with us last time. She's been on a couple of them. So it's good to have you back, Lisa. How have things been for you?
Wow, there's like a military helicopter going overhead. Sorry about that. Hold on. Wonder what that's all about.
Lisa! Thank you for recommending the book to me. I was skeptical about buying it when I first saw it, and then your recommendation made me buy it.
Awesome.
And I'm loving it so far.
What?
And I'm loving it so far. I'm loving the book.
Awesome. That's great.
He uses too many commas.
Yeah, well, that's the old style of writing, you know.
I use a lot of commas myself, so I can't even critique that.
I critique it because I use a lot of commas too, and it's scary that someone else uses a lot of commas.
What's everybody?
If you look at my older writing, there are a ton of commas.
What was that,
There's too many
Vince?
commas in my writing.
What's everybody's stance on the Oxford comma?
I don't use it.
You don't use the Oxford comma?
No, I don't put a comma.
I love it. It's saying
What's that?
The Oxford comma is when you use a comma right before the last item in the list.
yeah.
I do
Oh,
that.
I always do that. I always do that.
I don't.
And I get really, really irritated personally when people don't do that.
Me too.
Really, I don't use it.
It throws me off if I don't see that, because then it's like, okay, wait, the list, that if it's part of the list, then you have to have the comma with each item so I know it's the list. Otherwise, I'm just going to be confused. Like it's essential.
Then y'all shall be confused by my writing. No awkward commas.
I write way too many lists that then go on to continue the sentence afterwards, so I end up confusing myself if I don't use it.
Yeah, I do the same thing.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the...
I can write a really good speech and have perfect pauses and perfect punctuation, but when I'm writing it, I don't have good punctuation. I cannot use a semicolon, and it kills me every time.
Semicolons are easy. Come on.
They're
I
awesome.
don't get them. The situation just never brings it up for me. I don't get them.
I kind of
Compound sentences.
Many semicolons.
You're losing control, Michael.
Okay, so we'll go one at a time. Okay, Fabrice was saying something. Semicolons, Fabrice.
I'm a native German speaker, so getting the commas and the points right in English is pretty awful.
Okay, and then somebody else was trying to say something. Divya, were you trying to say something about semicolons? What's your take on this?
Oh, I love semicolons. I use them all the time. Maybe a little bit too much.
Yeah,
But it's just so they're just so freaking useful, because you can be making a sentence, right? And then you maybe want to add something to that, but not separate this. You want to. I mean, semicolons are all about, telling the reader that these two sentences are related, that they are, complementing each other. They are coming together to say this, say the same thing, or yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Did you guys know about, like, there was I don't know if it was in 2016 or 2017, the semicolon kind of took on like this movement where people were getting semicolon tattoos behind their ears. And at first I thought it was weird, but the meaning behind it is actually kind of cool. So it's basically for suicide awareness. Basically someone would get a semicolon because they chose to live longer, and it's kind of like, well, with a sentence you can choose to end it, or you could put a semicolon and extend it, so if they were battling depression and they kind of like felt like they won, they'd get a semicolon, kind of like equating their life to it. It's kind of like symbolic, and I thought that was kind of cool.
That is cool.
It expanded my appreciation for semicolon, even if I didn't understand it at first, because if you just see a semicolon, it doesn't make sense. But then when it's explained, it's like, oh, that's really that's deep. That means a lot. That's really cool. So there was another topic that I wanted to bring up, but I completely forgot what it was. We were, to Phil and Lisa, prior, we were talking about the DNC fraud lawsuit, and then we kind of got into, we had Divya talking about how she was kind of observing U.S. politics and whatnot, and then we had Fabrice. He was sharing his perspective on Belgian politics and whatnot. So we are open if you guys have any recommendations for anything you want to talk about. We had a couple of, these last couple of weeks have been gigantic for news. We had the Charlottesville, incident, which is still terrifying to me. We have the hurricane, Hurricane Harvey in Texas. So there's a lot. So does anybody have any recommendations? Because we're completely open. We can talk about whatever.
Oh, I've got one that I know you'll be interested in.
Sure.
What's your take on the latest round in the YouTube demonetization?
Oh, yeah. See, I've heard about this. I actually was not hit with this as far as I know, but it does come in waves. Now, to be clear, I was hit pretty badly in the last round of demonetization, and I never recovered. So I'm still making 50%. But in the latest round, I haven't been hit yet. So if I am, I'd imagine it's going to happen in like the next week or so. But it's weird to me in how people are being hit. So I know that Tim Black was hit. Jeff Waldorf was hit of TYT Nation. I don't know that Kyle Kalinske was hit. I haven't been hit as far as I know. So it's weird to me because it seems like it's really indiscriminate. Like some people are getting hit and other people aren't. And you would think that with similar like news and politics channels, they'd all kind of be hit at once because that's what happened last time. So I'm not really sure how to take this. But one thing that I will say about this though is that YouTube did an update where I don't know if they sent us an email or at the top of our YouTube page, they said, here's all the videos that are not monetizable. So you can click on that link and it links you to all the videos that were demonetized. So for me, these were all the videos that I already knew were demonetized. And I had went through and already basically requested reviews of them, and some of them were accepted and some of them were rejected. But I think that what we're seeing for the people that were hit is that maybe they didn't know how many videos were demonetized, and then they got that list and they clicked on it, and they thought, holy crap, this is more than I thought. So that could have been what it was. But the thing about demonetization is you don't really know unless you actively look. And like today I had 2 videos hit, but certainly I usually get about 2 to 3 videos hit per week. So I'm usually up to date on it. So that's why I feel like I wasn't hit. But certainly if anything big happens, then you know it. So that's why I say I don't think I've been affected, because I would see like a drop, like a huge drop off, like a ton of ads just being taken off. Certainly I'm noticing ads on the channel again, but they're shitty ads. Like they're the really garbage ads that don't like pay out very much. And I know that Kyle said the same thing. And if you see, a lot of people are getting these ads. It's this horrible PragerU ads. It's these weird like right-wing interest group ads, and they don't pay out a lot. And they're also horribly miscategorized because they're playing these right-wing ads on progressive channels. So I'm sure that when they find out, when these companies who are advertising on YouTube and news and politics find out that their ads are being played before like progressive channels and they're not making any money off of it, they're going to be pissed and they're going to pull funding. So, it's a complex situation. I will stay up to date, but I didn't want to make a video about this on the main channel for people that have been caught. Because I know that as far as I know, it's just Tim Black and Jeff Waldorf on the progressive side, but I don't know about the other side. Like I know that conservatives have been hit, but I don't really like keep in contact with them. So this whole thing has been kind of a roller coaster, and I kind of just, with how things are, it's been the new norm, and I've just kind of accepted it. So as far as I know, there hasn't been any huge abrupt changes. So I'll certainly let everyone know, because I know a lot of people have reached out about that. So I'm glad you actually brought that up. Because yeah, it usually happens to a lot of people. So I think there's either going to be another round of it, or maybe I was okay this time. So I don't know.
I'm just worried about people that are up and coming that aren't going to be able to break through the wall with the stuff that they want to be able to cover. Right.
Exactly. I made the joke on my channel this week because I was talking about neo-Nazis, Afghanistan war. I was like, man, YouTube is going to break their demonetization button. They're just going to keep hitting it and hitting it. You know what I mean? But I'm not gonna plan my content around what will and won't get demonetized. If I get demonetized, then I get demonetized. But yeah, it sucks for the new people, like David Dole, for example. He has like 15,000 subscribers. There's another guy, Progressive Voice, Sahil Habibi. He has 9,000 subscribers. These people are really, they're in a tough position because you're growing pretty fast, but at the same time, your audience still isn't as large to really sustain you, for what you're losing. And I think I'm kind of just like in the middle. Like 100,000 is a huge amount of people, but there are certainly other channels that are bigger. So I'm kind of just in like the okay zone. Like we have enough Patreon support to where the demonetization, it sucks, but we can still keep going. Like we don't have to pack up ship. But for the new people like David Dole, they're in the worst spot right now. It just sucks. Because you're no longer, basing how you grow on how many people watch. It's, your ability to grow is going to be based on how passionate your audience is. So if you have people that just casually watch and don't want to, support you on Patreon, then it might be more difficult to expand and grow. So it just sucks because, I think about it as all the new people who are like great, who are up and comers, they're so much more underappreciated than they were before, or than anyone ever was, because now, it just sucks. Oh, and another thing about this that I've noticed is that subscriber rates have grown a lot slower, not just for Secular Talk, but Humanist Report as well. And this is because if you kind of talk about things that get you demonetized relatively often, then you get put in this category on YouTube to where they don't really want to share your stuff as much. And that can be even more devastating than getting just straight up demonetized, because if less people see your content, then, you know, that's less people who are willing to support you regularly and who might be inclined to get on Patreon and support you. So, you know, the whole situation is just really shitty. And YouTube, like, I feel like they are aware of it and they're trying to get it together, but at the same time, it's like trying to hit a moving target. Like, I don't necessarily, I mean, I'm torn on this, right? Because on one hand, they launch YouTube TV. So they want to make sure that the big networks make money. But on another hand, you know, people who post videos and are growing, they're still making YouTube money, right? Even if it's just those shitty PragerU ads, you know, that's still money. And YouTube is a business and they don't want to lose out on money. So they really have to walk this fine line, strike this correct balance. But yeah, at the same time, people are getting left behind. People like David Dole, Progressive Voice, it just sucks so bad. Oh, and Let the Madness Begin. They actually quit for a couple of months and then they came back recently. I don't know if you guys have heard of them. Phenomenal content. I love them. It's just two guys that talk to a camera and they sometimes include like comedy. I mean, when you're at that 10,000 mark right now, you know, you should be exploding, but it's a lot more difficult. So it just sucks because this is really suppressing a lot of voices. You know, it's totally suppressing voices. And I think that it's really harmful to just have the same people talk over and over. Like, it can't just be me, Kyle, David Packman, some other people over and over. Like, we need more voices, you know, because I think that without other people to emerge and challenge us, then I feel like we could just form like a type of pseudo status quo on YouTube to where it's just this voice and whatnot and that voice. And we're all kind of saying about the same thing, but we really need new people to come in with fresh ideas and fresh ways of presenting information. I think that's super, super important, which is why I always tell people, you know, if you think you have something to say, start a YouTube channel. It may be difficult, you know, it may not be your career right away, but it's still really important to get your voice heard. Let me just stop for a sec here. We have someone who just joined. Welcome to the chat. Glorissa, how's it going?
Hey, how you doing?
Doing well.
I'm so shy. Oh my God.
Oh, hey, don't be shy. We don't bite. We're all, you know, we're pretty, I think, welcoming bunch of people. Where are you from?
I'm from New Jersey.
Very cool. New Jersey.
Best state
Okay.
in the fucking world. Oh, can I curse?
Please go kick Chris Christie.
Go kick Chris.
Absolutely not. No, I'm the most anti-Christie person in the whole world.
Well, how could you be anti-Christie? I mean, come on. He seems like a really nice guy. I don't.
Hit him in the neck.
That was the last straw. As if there was any straws to begin with. Hit him since day one.
So
Christie was recently at a baseball game, and he caught a foul ball, and people were cheering, and then they realized it was Chris Christie, and they started to boo him.
Oh, that's great.
Yep.
Oh, we're doing this right here in Jersey.
I will say this about Chris Christie, the meme potential that he has created. I mean, it's phenomenal. I mean, the beach incident, how many memes I saw that made me lose my shit and just laugh hysterically were great. So I will say that the memes are great. Same with Donald Trump. I mean, the meme potential there, I think that's really important. And yeah, so at least, you know, silver lining, he's dumb enough to where we can make fun of him and it's funny. But no, I feel you. New Jersey, I feel bad for
me alive at this point. The only thing keeping me alive on this damn earth.
Okay, so
Jan Zbitowski is a meme.
Say that again, Cam.
Jan Zbitowski is a meme.
Oh, he is a meme. He is a meme. I feel like for those of you who don't know, Jan Zbitowski is Bernie Sanders' challenger. I kind of feel like he, in real life, he's Bernie Sanders' challenger in Vermont. He's a guy that was recruited by an organization called Organizing for Democrats, and they didn't.
Yeah, you talked about him.
Yeah. They didn't
But still,
do any research on him at all. No research whatsoever. And he turned out to be someone who's transphobic, homophobic, kind of sexist, just horrible, and overtly racist, what some of us post.
I'm so afraid he's going to beat Bernie Sanders.
Well, I think that his chances went down. So I don't think he ever had a chance. And I think recently he had this public dispute with his manager. It was really embarrassing. So now it's to the point where I kind of just feel bad for him, where it's like, I mean, I shouldn't, because, you know, it's like, dude,
It's pathetic. It's hard to watch.
Yeah.
That's the best.
It's like watching like
funny.
the what is it? The auditions at American Idol, like the people who are just like have no talent at all, but they just go out there to embarrass themselves. That's what he's like.
Yeah.
Poor thing.
Yep. That's exactly, and that was the only part of American Idol that I ever watched, and that's why it's kind of like, this is like junk food news to me. Like, I can't get enough of it. But at the same time, they left a comment that I saw that really resonated with me. They're like, Mike, why are you talking about him? This guy, there's a possibility that something is like wrong with him. Just stop talking about him. I'm like, okay, that actually makes sense. I didn't think about it like that. Although I don't think there's actually anything wrong with him psychologically. I think that he's just unaware, and he just seems like he's old enough to where he just seems like a cool grandpa who sometimes says really weird, incoherent things. Where like, Grandpa, what are you talking about? Not that I know from personal experience, but where it's like, Grandpa, what you're saying doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? So that's why he's giving me the grandpa vibe, and I think he is a grandpa. So I kind of feel bad for him, but at the same time, it's like, come on. So, it's fun to watch. It's a train wreck. You can't look away. But it is what it is. So Glory said, to kind of fill you in, what we don't really ever have an agenda. We just kind of talk about whatever, and somebody will bring up something and we'll talk about it.
Sounds fun.
So we were talking about YouTube demonetization. So I don't know if you came in with anything you wanted to discuss or anything you wanted to chat about. And anything's on the table, even like non-political stuff. So feel free to if you wanted to talk about anything, let us know.
I don't really have anything to observe and feel part of a family.
Sure. Yeah, this is really a tight-knit family. We have we don't always have the same people. We always have Cam. I call Cam Boy Genius because he's the 16-year-old kid who's like writing a book and he has his own political party, literally.
Damn, good for you, Cam.
Yeah, Cam's
awesome.
Cam's here all the time. We have Lisa, who is pretty regular. Vince this is his second time on. So we usually come back and we just kind of shoot the shit. We catch up for a little bit first, and we talk about anything. We the conversations devolve into like weird stuff, video games. I think we got into like Pornhub comments one time, which was just hilarious. But we talk about whatever is on our mind. Including maybe Game of Thrones, if you guys want to talk about that, because I really was excited.
No.
Oh, that's true. That's true. No spoilers, because some of you may not have watched it, and we can't do that. I didn't even think about that because I had one episode spoiled for me, and I was so angry. One of my Facebook friends spoiled it, and I was gonna call them and be like, "How could you spoil Game of Thrones? I wait for this every single week, like." Yeah, so I won't do that because I don't want to spoil it.
Does it have as much pain? Oh, sorry. Does it have so much like pain and death and like rape as like I think it is? Because like I hear all about like everyone like, oh, every character dies, and like that's what turns me off from it because I don't like all that death. Does it have as much as I think it is? Yes.
So if that's disturbing to you, then don't watch it. It's like borderline like gut wrenching it is gut wrenching for me. It's pretty gruesome. So. Yeah.
I used to write things like that.
You used to write things like that?
I hear the plot script, but then like
sometimes.
Yeah,
I read Wuthering Heights once, and that was a while back, and I ended up going onto a goth type of writing style for a while, and I still use it a lot with my short stories. So I'll use a lot of old language.
Yeah, it's just
I use like a lot of old language. People commonly die.
It depends, it's one of those things to where if you can get past, if the plot's good enough and you can get past it, then that's great. But Game of Thrones is like, it kind of crosses a line to where a lot of people who want to watch for the plot, like I tried really hard to get my mother-in-law into it, and she couldn't get past it because it was so gruesome. And even I was like, I don't know, it's like maybe you'll be able to watch it, maybe you won't. And she just could some people can't get through it, and I totally get that. For me, you know what is the worst part for me is when they battle like with horses, and the horses are part of like getting killed. That just kills me. Like you can kill all the you can kill all the humans, and that sucks. But when you kill the animals, then it's like, okay, now we have a fucking problem.
Because they do nothing. They do nothing for anybody. But I'm so sorry. I have to leave already. I didn't know I had to go somewhere so soon.
Well, hey, we're glad to have you. Hopefully, we'll see you next time.
Definitely. Have a good day, everyone. Goodbye.
Yeah, nice meeting you.
Bye.
Adios, amigo.
So on this topic of animals in movies, has anyone seen A Dog's Purpose? Because I watched that movie. That was the most horrible movie I've ever seen in my life.
No, I haven't.
Does a dog die?
Multiple times.
What?
Okay, so basically it's about reincarnation.
Oh.
and a dog. So you just relive the same stuff over and over again. I was bawling my eyes out in this movie, and I never ever cry during movies. It takes a lot. But I had like my dog just sitting there on my chest as I'm watching this movie on my iPad, and I'm like, what sick son of a bitch made this disgusting movie? And I was just, oh my god! I won't spoil it for you if you want to see it. But yeah, if you're a dog lover or if you're an animal lover, then don't watch it. Like I was told that I should watch it because I'm a dog lover. No.
You fell into a prank. That was probably a prank.
Oh, I'm sure some sick. I don't even remember. I think it was just someone on Facebook who I haven't even talked to in a while recommended it, and it was just disgusting. And I couldn't like turn it off because you already want to make sure that you get to that ending that you kind of think. So I'm like, okay, I'll keep it. And there were other dogs, so my dog was like barking at my iPad while I was watching it too. So it's like, okay, well he likes it, so.
we have multiple dogs, and they'll be with my mom when they watch TV, and whenever there's a doorbell that rings, they'll run over to the front door and start barking. It's the most amazing thing.
Isn't it? I don't know if you guys have seen the show Trailer Park Boys. It's on Netflix. So it's a really funny show. It's basically about a Canadian trailer park, and they just do all these shenanigans. And in the intro screen, it just plays, and it's the credits and whatnot, but there's a scene where a cat runs across during the intro screen. Every time that happens, my dog will wake up from like a dead sleep and run to the TV and just like bark at the kitty and whatnot. And so he was actually, he had pneumonia, and then he had something else. So he was actually in the hospital for 2 days. So I went to go visit him, and I brought my phone and I played the Trailer Park Boys little intro on my phone, so that way he can kind of be reminded of home. And they're just like, what are you doing? Letting your dog watch your TV on your phone or whatever? I'm like, yeah, he likes this intro. He gets to see the cat. It reminds him of home. So yeah, it's weird how dogs respond to things and whatnot. Lisa, is everything okay there? What the hell's going on? Are you getting invaded?
Yep.
I think that was happening.
So sorry about that sound.
Isn't that makes me feel uneasy whenever I like hear that.
Sorry about that. That might be on their map, I don't know.
I know, right?
Yep.
Guys,
The socialist revolution has begun, Lisa. The government is trying to attack us.
Yep.
Go ahead, Fabrice.
can you still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay. Did you see the movie Okra?
Oh, is that the one on Netflix with like the hippo/elephant looking thing?
Yeah, that's the big kind of pig.
How is that? That looked good to me.
It was wonderful. It's beautiful, and it's perfectly suited for children too.
Okay.
And it's kind of an animal rights movie if you want.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. Yeah, I was actually curious about that because I saw it when it came up.
It's really well made. I loved it.
Nice. That's good to hear. I'm always looking for more stuff on Netflix because I kind of feel like I've gone through the same like 3 TV shows like The Office, It's Always Sunny, and Trailer Park Boys. Just kind of cycled through them. So yeah, I need new stuff.
Also, I wanted to say that this Patreon thing is really cool.
Say that one more time.
This Patreon thing you're doing,
Oh, right. Yeah, you know what? I didn't really know about all the stuff that Patreon offers people. Now Patreon is even doing like their own live streaming.
Yeah.
Which is so cool. I haven't used it yet, but you could do polls now, Patreon polls. You could do so much stuff, and it's so cool. I absolutely love all the features.
You have Google, who is an absolute monopoly,
Yeah.
And Patreon is really the savior for these people who are demonetized, and I really enjoy supporting those people.
That's great. Hey, that's great. And every single person appreciates it who you support on Patreon. And like a lot of people are saying, we need to start looking for alternatives to YouTube. There's, Vimeo, there's vid.me. I honestly think that Patreon could potentially emerge if we can like upload videos to Patreon and just not necessarily make it so that way all of our content you have to pay for it, but because you have the option of setting something to public, so someone could just go to your Patreon page. I mean, if Patreon gets their own like video uploading thing, I think they, of all, you know, websites, can be the one to really give YouTube a run for their money, which is really needed because YouTube doesn't have any other competitor that's like comparable. I mean, you have other—
It's not even close.
No, you have other video streaming services, but that's why YouTube is so shitty. It's because nobody can challenge them, you know.
Much more because the quality is better, but there's not this monetization thing, you know.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
Exactly. And Facebook, they don't have monetization yet. I know it's something that they want, but in terms of like uploading videos to Facebook, it's a nightmare. It takes 4 times as long to upload anything to Facebook than it does to YouTube. And almost, I'd say like half the time there's an error. So I just have to like post a link to the video on the Humanist Report Facebook page. And it makes me angry because the people who are like following us on Facebook, like they don't want to have to go outside of the website. They just want to stay there and watch the video through Facebook. So it sucks that they're not fixing their upload system because that's kind of crucial. But at the same time, it's kind of my fault because my videos are longer. Like I don't think it's really meant for like 10-minute plus videos because all the shorter videos are usually okay for me. But there's so much BS with Facebook's uploader. And it's really difficult. Like if you want to search for a video on Facebook, it's hard to find it because their tag system is really weird. Like, you know how if you're uploading a video, you put like a tag in it, like this is about Bernie Sanders politics. Yeah. So with Facebook, you can only put something as a tag if it's another page on Facebook. So if somebody doesn't have their own page, then you can't even tag it. So it's like difficult to even categorize your videos. And it makes no sense. I actually talked to Aaron Wysocki of TYT because once a month I'll talk to them. I'll talk to Aaron Wysocki and he'll kind of like fill me on, you know, what's happening with YouTube and whatnot. And I asked him like, okay, so you guys upload videos to Facebook all the time. How do you tag your videos? Sorry, my cat almost knocked this down. How do you tag your videos and make it so that way people can find them? And he's like, nobody knows. we do what we can. It's such a pain in the butt. So I really wish Facebook would improve that. But like I said, Patreon, I think they're the ones who they're going to give YouTube a run for their money if they open it up more. Stop it.
Absolutely.
So
sorry.
Are you on Twitter?
Say that again.
Are you on Twitter?
I am on Twitter. I know that you can upload videos to Twitter. I think they limit it so you can't upload a video that's longer than 10 minutes. And also certain accounts can only upload a minute. I think I'm one of the ones that can only upload a minute. The Young Turks are trying to talk to the Twitter people for me and get me into like the premium category so I can upload 10-minute or longer videos because I would like to upload to Twitter as well. You can't monetize it, but it's just easier to share. And I think that could be, you know, potentially help people who see the links on Twitter that I share, but they don't really want to click it. Because I mean, it's kind of the same for me. Like if I'm on a website, I don't want to leave that website. So I think it's important to just make it easier for people.
Yeah. So I was about to say, I found a list of the 15 most popular video websites. Number 1 is YouTube. It has, get this, 1 billion daily views.
Wow.
The next site is Netflix.
Huh.
Do you guys want to guess how many views?
Maybe 500 million?
No. It's 150 million.
That's it.
Holy.
Oh my God.
So
wow.
I think YouTube qualifies as a monopoly.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's capitalism. It does that. Why do y'all expect something else? I don't get it. I still don't get why y'all expect something else.
Yeah, I think that's a monopoly. I don't know.
Absolutely.
So
hey, Mike.
Everything with new technology is a monopoly. Everything.
Hey, Mike.
Give me 1 second.
It'll take
nice job.
It'll take you until like 2020, maybe 2030 for the YouTube monopoly to finally collapse. It'll take 2030. And then another new piece of technology. Before you know it, we'll be doing body augmentation and there will be a monopoly on that. Where you have to do like monthly installments. And it takes forever.
Cameron, you know, I'm already in VR right now with the Vive. This is coming. You know, we're all going
Aw,
to communicate
kitty.
on VR.
Ew.
Aw, meow.
Ew, a cat.
Sorry, this is the culprit over here.
Ew, a cat.
Oh.
Can you guys hear me?
I'm a dog person.
Okay, this is the culprit over here, little brat.
Oh.
Yeah. She saw my feet wiggling from the other side, and she was trying to attack my feet, but she knocked this down.
She destroyed your background.
Yeah, so she's gonna chill here because she's naughty. You were caught. You're busted. She's really pretty though. She's a brat, but she's cute. So
Hello, kitty.
I put up with her.
All right. So I've got a.
Did we get a new person here now?
I think Vince just jumped on camera.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to see the cat.
Look how she's like a wiener kitty. She's really long. Ow, don't do that. Really, really long cat. So I call her a wiener kitty because she's super young, but she's tall. Like when she stands up on the counter to get food, like she just like reaches. So now like if I'm making food, I have to like push it in. Otherwise she'll just straight up knock it off. I'm like, what kind of a cat is like acts like that? Like that's just crazy to me.
I'm impressed.
Say that again, Kat.
So
I am impressed
You're impressed?
by the cat. Mm-hmm.
You know, I have a female and a male, and they are brothers and sisters. And the female one is really tiny.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, and the male one is big as hell, just like your cat.
Yeah. Well, she's supposed to get pretty big. She's a Maine Coon cat, and apparently they get like really big, but they grow for like 2 to 3 years. And I could totally see that because she's only like I think 9 months old. And she's already like gigantic, like the biggest cat I've ever had. She's just so huge. I mean, I don't even know, like just huge cat. And she's like a dog. Like she literally will come to you for treats. She'll eat scraps. Like, so I have to like keep that away. Like I've never had a cat that's like a dog. So she's definitely fun. But she can be ornery, as you guys can tell with this thing falling down. And there's been times I've had to re-record videos because the same thing happened. So you do what you can when you film in your house, right?
Yeah.
Your background is still moving, right?
Say that again?
Your background is still moving.
Is it still moving?
It was still moving.
Yeah. So I had people, they were asking like, are you in Kyle's old massage parlor studio? Because Secular Talk had the same type of background. Which is amazing to me. Because I was like, oh yeah, this is like identical. And I know why, because this one is like, it's like, I believe it was like $30 or $25. It was super cheap. And I'm like, oh, that would be way more professional than just like turning on the camera. Because before, I would try to do these live shows without the background, and then I'd be like talking, and I'd see my dog walk by, and then they'd like every once in a while, if I'm trying to film, they'd like start wrestling behind me, and I like can't like look away from that. Like I have to see what they're doing. So like this is like I think it looks a little bit better. It's just unless my cat knocks it over.
All right. Shut out your cats. That's all.
All right. So I've got a question here for y'all.
Sure.
So I'm curious as to if any of y'all have come from a background of wealth.
I haven't.
I haven't either.
Looks like no's across the board.
I am lower middle class.
Yeah. Okay. So.
What counts as wealth? Like, where is the?
Oh, I'm talking about being in like the top, let's say 10% of income earners.
No.
Oh no.
Probably not.
Yeah.
I was raised like middle class, upper middle class.
Yeah. So this is interesting. This is one thing about me that's always interesting when I compare myself to other progressives, because most of them are like middle class. I'm actually in the upper class. My dad is a doctor, and we make a lot of money.
You're a capitalist?
No, that's a doctor.
Yeah.
Do you own the
Saves
means
lives
of
for
production?
living.
I'm gonna jump out my window. Do you own the means
Saves
of
lives for
production?
living.
Wow.
Whenever someone says capitalist, I just hear Nancy
doctors,
Pelosi, and
my
she says that
God.
thing.
Yeah. But what's interesting, do you guys remember that Jeremy Corbyn ad where he was basically, he had that family that was at the dinner table. And they're like, I don't know
yeah,
why.
I love that.
Yeah.
People called it a caricature. I am not kidding. We have had conversations like that before about Bernie Sanders.
Really?
I am not kidding at all.
They just
So it is not. It is not a caricature. It is actually accurate.
That's interesting to know.
I just got triggered.
Yep.
Sorry, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So there,
Oh,
Lisa.
no.
So to kind of explain, to give people context, because I'm sure other people who watch it later won't know. So there was a Jeremy Corbyn ad. It was for Labour Party and whatnot. And basically, the whole premise was the ad to show how out of touch people were. So there was like a bunch of people sitting around this table, and they would talk about certain issues that didn't really affect them. So for example, one lady was like, oh, well, I don't know why these younger kids can't pay for college. I paid off my college. And then it showed like a little, like a bubble would pop up with text saying, well, she only paid,
university.
College was X amount, so it was cheaper back then. So it was just like they'd compare and they'd say, well, why can't they just pull themselves up by their bootstraps? I'm paraphrasing, and then it'd pop up and say their income is this, So basically showing that they can't really empathize because they're not in other people's shoes. That was the whole premise of the ad. I'm doing a terrible job explaining it. I don't know if I can even, I might be able to, oh no, never mind, I can't, because I'll end up messing this up.
But there were various.
I remember there was a line saying, one of the guys said something like, "Oh, I worked hard," but then it comes up in the text that he actually inherited his company and.
Right, that's it.
Like sort of a baby boomer privilege ad,
Yeah, it was basically that. Yeah, that's kind of what it was about. It was about privilege and just people who are in. Not necessarily rich people, but just people in like a different income bracket and different generations who had different experiences, kind of talking about now and why they just can't understand why things are different, Yeah. But go ahead and finish with that, David, because I think that's really interesting. If you had more to say about that.
So I remember there were a lot of right-wingers who were like, oh, this is a caricature of what, conservatives and people in the upper class are like. No, it's 100% accurate. I can tell you this because I'm in it. All my friends, you look at what their parents do. They're doctors, they're lawyers, they're businessmen. In some case, they know someone who owns the Kansas City Chiefs. And it's really interesting how different politics is for me. Up until after the election, I had a completely different angle on politics. And it's because of the fact that, believe it or not, with the upper class, Hillary Clinton's message actually resonated with people in the upper class. But I know now that did not resonate with everyone else. So it's incredibly eye-opening. It shows me the difference of worlds between people who are in the upper part of the income ladder and people in the middle to lower part of the income ladder. It's incredibly eye-opening.
David, can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
So do you like talk politics with a lot of people? Like what is their response when you tell them that you're like a progressive or like a Bernie Sanders supporter? Like, is that kind of like shocking? Like, is that kind of out of the norm, or are they, how do they react to that?
It's interesting. So some of them are a little bit shocked. Some of them are just like, okay, they see it the same way. They basically see it as a difference of opinion. But I remember I got into a discussion with my dad about tuition-free public college, and he said, it's a bad idea. And I was like, why? And he was like, we can't pay for it. I mean, literally, people in the upper class use that argument all the time. And so has my history teacher. And
did they say that you can pay for it or that you can't?
You can't. They said that it's too expensive, even though it would if you were to implement it right now, it would take up less than 2% of all the money that the United States makes in tax revenue. So yeah, it's interesting. But when people hear that I'm a progressive, it's mostly like, oh, you're this left-wing loon, you know, you don't understand anything about politics. You don't understand, you know, how basically you don't understand, you know, how amazing it is to be an American or stuff like that. And I'm like, you look at a place like, for example, Sweden, in your case, or a place like Denmark or Canada, and they have what Bernie Sanders is basically screaming for. And it's seen as normal in those places. So, interesting.
So, can I ask you another question about that? And feel free to say no if you don't want to. So I had another person who was a Hillary Clinton supporter on Twitter that kind of has been, anytime I'll post a video, he'll like send me saying why I'm wrong based on like the Hillary supporter perspective. And it kind of seems like he is taking on some of my arguments and that he agrees with them. But then he asked this question. He said, well, why is it if I'm in an upper bracket, why should I care about things that don't technically affect me? I have really good private health insurance. I have a good education. So why should I care about other people? You know, why should I get on board with someone like Bernie Sanders? So posing that question, what makes you feel like, you know, even though it doesn't necessarily affect you, like if you think you'll be able to go to a good college anyway, what makes you want to, you know, fight for those types of issues?
I guess it's empathy. I mean, I've grown up in an incredibly privileged situation. I know what it's like to be wealthy, and I guess that I want other people around me to experience a good upbringing, if you will, because I've had everything that I've wanted. I mean, gone to a good private school for practically my entire life. You know, we drive nice cars. We have a nice house. We own 2 houses. Actually, the grandmother lives in one. And I look at our situation, and I immediately think of the Grapes of Wrath. And there was a part of it. Who here has read the Grapes of Wrath? Just curious.
Sorry, what was the last part?
I'm just curious as to who here has read the Grapes of Wrath.
I haven't read it.
Because there's a
Is it Steinbeck?
yeah, because
I've
there's
got
a
it
part
on
of
my
it.
shelf. I'll
Yeah.
read it.
Yep. Well, there's a part of it where basically it's talking about how you have these wealthy corporations who were basically producing food during the Great Depression, and they were literally throwing food out in the stream because of the fact that it would have been more profitable to do that than to give it to people. And it basically said that there is a crime that basically goes beyond words. And I look at my situation and I compare it to middle class people. 1 second.
Sure.
You're speaking very.
Quick question.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. My brother came in and told me to pipe down a bit.
Okay.
But I look at my the situation that we're in, income-wise, and I can relate, and it's almost like I can relate it to that part in the Grapes of Wrath, because I've grown up at least with such opportunity and just everything, and there's something unspeakably criminal about the fact that I've been able to get this upbringing, and other people who have parents who work far harder than mine can't even put food on the table. And it makes me question everything.
I think that
I'm so appreciative of what you are saying there, because you don't get that from people who have lived in rich families very often, you know.
Yep.
So thank you very much.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that what you're saying, like with empathy, I think that's like the one thing that's lacking in so many people.
Yeah, because
you know?
with people in the 1%, you know, the other people that they know are pretty much people who are also succeeding. So it's why they get this perception of everything's going fine. But when they actually take a look at everything, the first thing that comes into their head is, it's their fault. They're not working hard enough or stuff like that. And it's just
Well, congratulate your parents.
Yeah.
Your parents did a great job.
Yeah.
David.
Well, yeah.
That's an issue with the. It's always going to end up being more profitable for the company to throw out the food rather than give it to people. That's just the nature of the system.
Yeah.
Even if we tried to change it, it would get eroded again.
Yep.
Unfortunately, that's what's happening in a lot of places right now.
Yep.
And as long as we have that system, things are going to end up going in a continuous cycle where we'll have a social democracy for a while. It'll die, and then it'll come back for a bit, and then it'll die again.
Yep.
When I study, one thing that I've noticed is that it always happens in times of a massive economic downturn. Obama was the exception.
I mean,
Obama got in and just continued the austerity. And whenever I look at history, it always happens for a period of 30 years. We'll have a social democracy for 30 to 40 years. Or, in some cases, 20 to 30 years. And then we'll have a session of neoliberalism, despite the many economic crashes, from about 30 to 40 years. It just depends again. But there's always that one cycle of neoliberalism or hard conservatism and then a social democracy, but never going fully to the left.
Like the swinging pendulum thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, we had a really prolonged session of social democracy, kind of, with FDR and the New Deal, right?
FDR to Carter, and then Reagan pretty much.
That was the 30s. 30.
Right.
When did the I think we stopped having our social democracy in like the 60s, and FDR got in at like 1934.
I would honestly say the 70s.
Yeah, 70s and 80s. That's the
neoliberal
era.
Because, well, neoliberalism started to take over in the 80s, but what led to the takeover of neoliberalism was the 70s and a stagnant economy under Jimmy Carter, who was left-wing.
That was my impression too.
Yeah, and then you really see like at least the two most recent examples, you see FDR and then you see Reagan. These are the people who really were game changers. You had FDR, who basically he implemented this new political era with the New Deal, you know, where you couldn't, even if you were a Republican, you couldn't speak out against the New Deal. It was just you accept the New Deal. That's what we do. We try to help the poor. And with Reagan, all of a sudden, things are different, you know. He ushered in this new era that we're still currently in and trying to get out of, that made neoliberal not just something that was, you know, neoliberalism, not just something that was more acceptable, but it was the way to go. I mean, it wasn't just neoliberalism, it was conservatism in general. It was just, you know, this more unapologetically American exceptionalism, and that, you know, we're the best, and you know, you can be as rich as you want to if you, you know, if we just break down all the trade barriers and we allow people to do stuff on their own. You know, it was two different mindsets that are diametrically opposed, and we kind of we saw that. So currently we're pushing out of, because okay, well, let me go back. So with the end of the FDR era, with, you know, Jimmy Carter, you know, economic change, economic things, the situation changed. Sorry, I'm reading some too. So the economic situation had changed. So that got people really questioning the FDR era, thinking, well, maybe this social democracy stuff, maybe it doesn't necessarily work as well as we thought. And then now with Reaganism, of course, you know, with trickle-down economics, you have this boom-bust cycle to where things go really well, but then ultimately you get income and wealth inequality, you get all these bubbles, and eventually they pop. And now we're starting to really see, okay, well, things aren't going too well with the Reagan era. So we're trying to transition back to another FDR type era. But certainly if Bernie Sanders becomes president in 2020 and we really go, you know, full steam ahead in the direction of social democracy, then I think Cam's right. I think eventually economic factors will change, and then we'll probably go back to, you know, neoliberalism. I think that, like Odivia said, it's kind of like this pendulum where it just goes back and forth, you know, throughout history. And we will say, oh, well, this worked better. Look at this example and this example. And both sides will point to certain presidents to validate their view. Oh, the economy was roaring back in the Reagan era, you know. So it is a pendulum. I really feel that way.
Well, Mike, one thing I want to
scrap the entire system and start over.
One thing I want to say is that one thing of the main problems is the destroying of the unions in America. You got like 12% of people in private sectors jobs in a union now, whereas Belgium has 45%. Just to give you a perspective. And secondly, I think Cameron has very well said what Richard D. Wolff says, the economist Richard D. Wolff.
Oh, I love him!
Yeah, I guess so.
I just found him a couple days ago. I got hyped. He's amazing.
Yeah, he is. He really is.
He's one of the only Marxist economists, and before I even found him, I had noticed it. That we always have that one cycle of social democracy, and then the neoliberalism or the conservatism.
And he's really Marxist. Really, he's taking Marx as a criticism of capitalism, and that's it. He's not insisting on Marx is right or whatever. But he's saying exactly what you are saying, that it's an endless cycle. You get a social democracy, then the neoliberals take over, and you got this crash in the economy, and it repeats all over, you know?
Give me one
sec. If you could hear me there.
Okay, hang on. Let me switch windows here. Okay, yeah, I think we could hear you. Give me 1 sec. Vince is going to be exiting. Let me follow you, Vince, on Twitter. I know he wanted to shoot me another question. So if I follow you, Vince, then you'll be able to send me a direct message on Twitter. So let me do that really quick so I don't forget now that I have your handle up. Also, shoot me your guys' Twitters while I'm there so that way I can follow anyone else. I know I'm following Lisa. I might be following you, Fabrice. Let me check, though. Hang on 1 sec.
I sent you the link.
For sure.
Thank you, Mike.
Right
Do you have a Twitter, Fabrice?
Yes, I have. I just sent you the link.
Oh, perfect. Okay, I'll follow you, too. What about ODV? I don't know if you have a Twitter or if I'm following you.
I do have a Twitter. I almost never use it because I don't have any followers.
Well, I could be your first follower.
So it's kind of just me talking into space.
I hate Twitter, but it's become essential.
But it's pretty much just, it's, let me just double check what it is. I just don't give you the wrong information.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. So it's,
you guys know how you'll get that eureka moment once in a while?
Yeah. Did you just have one?
Yeah, but a couple days ago. I was thinking about what the root causes of bigotry might be. So I looked at some examples and I said, okay, what seems to be a common link? I said, oh my gosh, the people who usually are bigoted, they are in poverty. Oh my, what is this?
I've thought of this also.
I did a bit more digging.
Well,
I did a bit more digging. And
not all of them.
And
I don't think that
not all of them, definitely, but the plurality that I've seen usually are in poverty.
A lot of them usually seem to go with the, the scapegoatism, and
yes,
it's encouraged,
right?
By some channels, so it just kind of festers easily when people, when people are not in a good situation. That's when shit like this happens. They get like, oh, this is why you're suffering, and if we just get rid of those yucky people, then everything, you will be good again. You will be good for the first time. They're just they are sabotaging you, not us.
That's totally it.
You're so right. It's so easy to blame the poor and immigrants and all those people for the things that are wrong in our countries. And I think it's time to wake up to that.
Yeah, it's something, I agree with you, Fabrice. It's something that blaming immigrants is something that's like an easy concept to grasp, right? Like if you just say, oh, well, immigrants are taking your jobs, a normal person can get that. But really, I mean, if you really want to figure out what the underlying causes are, it's complex, you know? So I think maybe that's why that's a message that's so appealing to people, is just because it's simple. You know what I mean?
And I think it's such a common message that, you know, I would imagine that it would be very practical or appealing for, you know, the elite to kind of encourage this message, because it kind of takes the focus off of them. I mean,
exactly.
Whether or not that is the case, I think it's very practical for them to do that.
Yep, that's exactly it. I totally agree.
They are laughing their ass off. I'm telling you, they are laughing.
Say that one more time, Fabrice.
They are laughing their ass off about us, fighting each other.
I often get that feeling all the time.
Yeah, I get that feeling too. It's just, you know, you kind of feel like you're being taken advantage of and you're being used, and that's exactly what's happening. You know, our government is governments around the world, not just the United States, but you know, yeah, well, who is it? Was it George Carlin who said it's a big club and you ain't in it? You know,
Yeah,
that's what I think of. So I just followed all of you on Twitter. I would encourage you guys to all follow each other as well. It's on the chat. And also, David, I followed you. You're being followed by David Schuster. So
yeah, so I followed Schuster recently, and he followed back immediately.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I just basically had a newfound love for Schuster.
Yeah, I mean, I heard him roast Joanne Reed and Joan Walsh, and I was like, oh my god, this guy's amazing.
It was great.
Hey guys, I'm followed by Vicky Cornell, so give her some love because her husband just died. And I'm a huge Soundgarden fan.
Who? Say that one more time.
I'm a huge Soundgarden fan, so his wife, I followed her and she followed me.
Oh, really? Who's his wife?
Vicky Cornell.
Let me look, because I don't know if I'm familiar with her.
It's just Vicky Cornell in Twitter. You'll find her.
Okay. And that's his wife?
Yes. And she has 3 children, and he committed suicide in May. Sorry.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah. Yes.
All right, you guys. Well, I'm gonna have to drop out. Got to get ready for work.
Okay, it was nice having you back on, Vince.
Yeah, and I'll be back next month.
All right. Hey, we'll look forward to it. Feel free to shoot me a message. Talk to you later.
All right.
I want to push it down, guys.
So I have a question. A couple of questions.
Yeah.
Okay. First, getting back to YouTube and all that nonsense that's happening to people like you that have channels, and when you guys have, this is a question. So when you have commercials, do we have to, if we're, okay, this is a really stupid question. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Feel free. It's all confusing. So,
so do we have to, okay, I feel like I should watch the entire commercial so that you can get the value from that commercial, as opposed to me just like pressing skip after 5 seconds?
As far as I know, if the longer you watch a commercial, it does pay us more money. But at the same time, I never encourage people to do that if they don't want to, because the YouTube commercials are like the worst that you can find. They're so terrible. So I totally get it if you want to skip it, because I can't. I have to skip them myself most of the time. I mean, if I'm watching,
help you all watch it.
Yeah, I'll try to do that too if I'm watching like someone who I really like, especially like smaller channels like David Dole. I'll try to watch his commercials, but every once in a while they'll be really long. Like they'll be like a minute and a half, like sometimes really long ads. And I kind of click past them. So it does technically help more, but I honestly don't know how much. I don't know if it's insignificant. I know just the fact that you saw it means that we get some type of payout.
Right.
But and the longer, the more that is. But at the same time, I don't necessarily think it's enough to where it's super worth it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I totally could forgive you because I can't deal. Those ads are terrible.
I've been wondering the same thing, but what I usually do if I really have to watch the commercial or I can't click past it, I usually just mute it
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, that's much easier, so I don't have to, because it's usually the same ads over and over.
Right.
So I just don't want to hear that, you know, this commercial about Adidas all the time, or like what's coming up on TV, you know, this weekend we're gonna have these celebrities or middle celebrities or minor celebrities bake together. Oh, this is gonna be awesome! Woo.
Yeah, the ads are so annoying, and the ads are louder too. They're always louder than like the other videos, so they like make it more annoying. And it's like, okay, you're increasing the chances that we're gonna skip it, because obviously they want you to watch because they make more money too. But like, don't make them so annoying. I mean, why do they have to make them louder? And there's actually, TV was like that before too, until there was a law passed saying that you can't make the commercials louder. They haven't done that on the internet, so that's why the internet ads are just awful. So yeah, no, I totally wouldn't hold that against you, because those ads are terrible.
We still have that going on over here.
I would recommend you all.
I just don't watch TV anymore because of
the Humanist Report, really. So you can skip the ads.
Yeah, you can skip the ads. A lot more people now, since the demonetization, one thing that I noticed is that a lot more channels are doing non-skippable ads to make up for what they lost in revenue. I haven't done that, and I haven't seen a lot of other people do that yet too. I think that if you have the Patreon support, like for me, basically, like Patreon, when we lost our money on YouTube, Patreon like saved us. Like we had one really, really, really bad month, and then we got a bunch of Patreon supporters. And we're like, okay, this is okay now. But like if you're new to YouTube, I'd imagine that they're gonna start doing more of the non-skippable ads, which I can deal with those if they're like 15 seconds, but like some of them are like 30 seconds, some of them are like a minute long, and they're really, really annoying. But it's kind of like the new norm for the newer people who are trying to make money and, you know, trying to make a living and whatnot. So yeah, I would say if you're gonna watch the ads like fully, then try to do it on like the smaller channels. But at the same time, I think that they would agree, like the ads are terrible. So we would never hold that against you, because it's I think just the fact, like for a lot of us, just the fact that you watch is really awesome. You know what I mean? Like just even if you skip every ad and you have ad block turned on, I still think that's good, because, you know, if you truly believe in what you're saying, then you want as much people to hear it as possible. So for me, even if people like watch with ad block, I think that's totally cool, because you're still, the overall thing that I want is for people to hear what I'm saying about politics, because I think that I have something unique and important to say. So as long as you're hearing it, that's fine. I don't care if, you know, if people have ad block on. And I kind of have the same view. There's like smaller indie artists like who do music that say, look, if you want to pirate my songs, I'd rather you pirate my music than not listen at all, you know? So I kind of have that same point of view where it's like, well, if you're watching, I still think that's, in a way, I'm benefiting from that. So I totally would never hold that against you if you skip the ad. So hit that skip button if it's too annoying, because some of these ads are god awful.
I know they are. Okay.
Since I've been a patron of you,
Figured you kills me.
Enabled ad block, and I don't watch the advertising.
Yeah, a lot of people use ad block now, because I have Safari, so I don't even know if I have ad block on Safari. But yeah, I can see why, especially like with The Hill, if you're trying to read an article, like a video will pop up and start playing, and it's like, really? Like I'm trying to read your content, and you have this snap into a Slim Jim. Like, I don't know if you guys saw that. It's so annoying. I hate it. Like it's man.
Favorite video.
You can't mute it.
You can't mute it, no, because then you'll click on the video.
You can mute the tab though.
Yeah, you can mute the tab. That's right. You can't do that.
Okay.
Or you can just do what I do in ad block.
It was an ad playing, but I couldn't see where the ad was. It was just invisible. And I was perplexed by that.
And you just rage. Like, even though you know you can mute the tab, you're just in a rage, and you're like, shut up! And you're like hitting every button, like trying to like shut up.
Mike, that's officially my favorite video now.
Yeah.
Snap into a Slim Jim!
I was gonna cut that out, but I'm like, you know what? It's just real. I know everybody else feels the same way, so I'm gonna just leave it.
Which video was this?
I did a video on just a really quick update to net neutrality. Like the goal of the video was to make it like a minute or two, just to tell people about the comments. Like there were 20 million, and I was trying to read an article, and I just had the web page up, and then the Slim Jim ad just started playing, and I had headphones on. It just was playing in my ear, and it just was so jarring. and I was just like, and I like kind of did this little rage, and it drove me nuts. And that happens every time I go on the Hill, or not just see.
Oh yeah, I remember now.
The Hill, yeah, it's so obnoxious. I hate it so much.
Oh jeez.
For some reason, I never get ads.
I get them all the time on the Hill. The Hill, and I like the Hill. They're kind of a better news source in my opinion. I mean, sometimes they suck, but just in terms of like facts, I usually go to them because they're a great like foundation. But the ads are just so annoying. So yeah, I had to vent on that video. I couldn't even edit it out. I felt justified in my rage.
Slim Jim.
Yeah.
That's all you need to do. Just snap into a Slim Jim.
I will never buy those. Those are disgusting. Did you want to ask another question, Lisa, about that?
Yes. Okay, so this is maybe not a question, but it's more of like a statement and a topic opener.
Sure.
So Charlottesville, just all that shit that happened, and the Nazis and the people saying, oh, you know, it was the, oh, how does Trump say it? Antifa?
Antifa!
Yeah.
Antifa! God. I think he's retarded. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm very unpolitically correct. I'm so sorry. I should not have said
He
that.
probably is. He probably is, honestly.
That was terrible of me. I did not mean that. Okay, but he's touched in the head. Let's put it that way. He's touched.
He's
Have
a
you
cuck.
seen his handwriting?
I'm just gonna clarify this.
I know. Okay, so I guess my statement is, oh man, I just, if you can give me a moment here to sort of collect my thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, that whole thing is just really upsetting. And, you know, as a socialist, I know that this is what the capitalist class does. They do it well. They divide the working class in any way they can, and that's what Donald Trump is doing, and that's his whole agenda. And get people to fight with each other on just race and ethnicity and gender and all that stuff, just so that they can pass their selfish agendas and they can gut all of our, protections, etc. Anyway, so that's just me ranting. So, but yesterday, I think it was yesterday, I was watching my local PBS station. I don't know if you guys ever watch World or on PBS. They got some really great shows on PBS, some great documentaries.
I love Frontline.
And yeah, yep. So I don't know if this was Frontline. I don't think it was. I think it was just some documentary. It might have been, but it was about the Ku Klux Klan and the history. And I heartily suggest you guys all watch that, because the more we know about the right, the very right wing, the hateful white supremacists and the Nazis and the Ku Klux Klan, the more we can, defend ourselves and try to unite the working class against that kind of division. But, it's just like that kind of hatred. It's incredible to me how a person can allow themselves to look upon another human being as inferior. And this is, some of these people, they really feel that people who have brown skin or people that came from Africa, and Jews also, are inferior. And that's just messed up. And because we're all human, we're all created the same. We all have the same skeletal makeup. We have, the organs are in the same place. We're all the same. And it's just like that kind of thinking, that's what we're coming up against. And I really feel that we're seeing the rise of that kind of nationalism and white supremacy again. And we've got to be aware of that. That's all. Okay.
I mean,
it's anti-science too. In biology, there are no races. There are no races in biology. Exactly. So their whole premise is flawed.
Right.
It's really anti-science, and it's being an asshole. That's all it is.
Yeah.
True.
But the key thing that I think we need to remember is that deep down, they're all human. That everyone's human, but so are these white supremacists. So I think Kyle Kalinske did a video about this where he was reading of a story where there was this person who was a white supremacist, and this person basically, at some point, basically stopped being a white supremacist and basically explained the way to get people out of there. And the person basically said, let's say we have someone who's Islamophobic. Get that person to talk with Muslims and it will change.
Right.
They're
I saw that.
And there are, I personally don't know the causes of racism and bigotry. I'm not going to pretend that I know, but there always seems to be this link between poverty and bigotry. There always seems to be. Yeah.
David.
And yeah.
I'm writing something about that, and I'm gonna try and get it published. And I'm also just gonna throw out PDFs of it. It's gonna be long, really long. There's 3 parts to it, and the second part is actually about the economic implications of race and racism. When it comes down to it, I'm confident now when I say this. I think racism stems out of economic factors. It's not all the time, and usually when you're rich and you're racist, it's probably because you grew up in a really bad family or just had a really bad education system.
But again, I could say this. Again, I've grown up in pretty much with people who are wealthy. I know very, very, very few people who are bigoted. And it probably has something to do with the fact that most of the people I know are financially secure. So,
yep, economic implications.
Yep.
Well, and there's a lot of causal factors. Certainly, economic issues. They're one of the main ones, right? I mean, because when you listen to a lot of what they're saying, they don't feel as though they're hateful. They feel as though they're justified and that they were victimized because immigrants came into the country and they took their jobs. They're entitled to these jobs, So it's certainly one of them. But I think that the ideology in and of itself is something that, it can emerge in a way that's more spurious. Like, I think someone can just be hateful just for the sake of being hateful. I think there's so many different causal factors to it. And I think that even like a childhood experience, like if you met someone who did you wrong, who was gay or black or Muslim, maybe, for example, they might take that experience and attribute it to all people. I think that I think that part of it is psychological, part of it is economics. There's a lot, but overall it is really weird. And for me with Charlottesville, I kind of went through different phases. I don't know if it was the same for you. So first of all, I went through the just general like shock, like holy shit, like, you know what I mean? Because you know that they exist. There are people like this in the world, but seeing them come out in public like that, it's a little bit, it still takes you off guard. But the second phase that I kind of went through was looking at how other people reacted to it. And that to me was a lot more troubling because there was a poll that came out by ABC News, I believe, and it showed that 9% of people think that neo-Nazi and white supremacist views are acceptable. And then when you look at all the videos on Charlottesville, the amount of dislikes and neo-Nazis like commenting is really, really alarming to me, right? Because you go to progressive channels. Yeah, there's a lot more than initial. You go to Kyle's channel and look at his Charlottesville video. You go to my channel and look at the Charlottesville videos. And if you sort by new on the comments, because if you just do top comments, you'll see like all the typical progressives that hang out. But if you sort by new, every once in a while, you'll see someone who identifies as a Nazi, and they're looking for these videos now. And I thought at first it scared me. I'm like, I posted a video on Charlottesville and I got some pushback, and I thought it was from my usual audience, but going through and I'm like, no, that would seem weird that progressives would kind of defend them. And you know, certainly some of them are, but the whole thing that I was kind of arguing with them is, are these Nazis or not? To me, there was no question that, yeah, these are neo-Nazis. They're chanting blood and soil. You know, they're in a way, they're playing tribute to Nazi Germany and the Ku Klux Klan.
Oh, yeah. And they're organized.
They're very organized.
They are very organized nowadays through the internet.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier. It's a double-edged sword, right? Because we can organize on the internet, but so can they.
Right.
You know? So it was really, I guess, what the whole thing that I'm taking away from Charlottesville is that, yes, these people exist. I know that, but I didn't know just how popular their views still were. I think 9% to me was really an eye-opener. I really hoped that poll was an outlier. I would have suspected that like 1% of the country would think that neo-Nazi views are acceptable, but 9%, that's almost 1 in 10. So that's 1 in 10 people who literally think that a genocidal ideology is acceptable.
That's the way it was in the 60s. That was about the percentage in the 60s.
That's scary.
You know what shocked me is the non-reaction of the police. You know?
We can hear.
Well, they had a permit.
Standing Rock, for example. How did the police react there? And you compare that with Charlottesville, and it's completely different. It's like they are doing nothing at all to stop these people.
And I remember talking about this. I don't like it when the police get involved with protests generally, but when you have two concurrent protests with diametrically opposed, basically, objectives, you got to keep them separate.
Yeah. Exactly.
Otherwise, there's going to be violence. And I think that's the one thing that we've learned in Charlottesville. I personally do not have a problem. This is me personally. I'm a staunch supporter of freedom of speech. You can be a neo-Nazi. Just don't be violent. That's honestly my thing. It's tricky, but those people do exist.
Yes, they do. It's weird. Like, okay, like on the show that I was watching, they were talking about the Ku Klux Klan. They used to do marches in North Carolina, and they called them walks or something like that. And they would dress up in their full regalia, right? Like the wizards and a lot of the people in the white with the hats. And it was scary. And they would walk with their children. And it was like they would walk down the city streets. And people would just like, bystanders would just be standing there, and probably some of them were probably really intimidated, and then others were probably like, yeah, maybe I'll join that group someday, you know. And it's like that was what was happening, and they would just do it in broad daylight. So this whole thing with them with the stupid tiki torches, it was stupid, and they were wearing khaki, and they had their hair different, so they weren't like skinheads. They're trying to make themselves more socially acceptable and more, up to date. That we have to be on guard about that.
It's the same message wrapped in new packaging. That's why they're the alt-right now.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly. My grandpa made a joke when I was talking to him recently. He said, "Looks like you'll get to see what I saw when I was your age." And at that moment, I was really disheartened.
Yeah.
He was a kid when Malcolm X was really popular. He was like my age back then. So he saw a lot of this, and I'm like, wow, history is yet again repeating itself. This is depressing. Time to crash all of it. Lisa, what socialist movements did you live through?
Socialist movements?
Yeah, like what have you seen? Because right now, socialism is resurging, And I think that's just a reaction to Trumpian economics and Trumpian politics. So right now, socialism is coming back, but I'm curious as to what you've lived through or seen. Like any big moments?
Well,
at all?
okay, so I'll tell you something. When I was a kid, you guys might appreciate this. You know, nowadays we have the two-party system, right? So, like, this is probably dating me now because when I was a teenager, I was a member of the Socialist Labor Party, and my dad was also. And in Detroit, where I was born and raised, we would go. They were starting to make restrictions on third parties, on smaller parties, minority parties, they called them then. There was a Socialist Worker Party, so you guys might be aware of that because that's still around.
The SLP is too.
It is. So anyway, we would go out. We had to collect a certain. This was when it first started, when the restrictions first started. We had to go out and collect signatures to get on the ballot. So if we collected nationwide, if we collected a certain amount of signatures, we would be able to get on the ballot. So, you know, I used to stand on the street and have people spit at me, and so, you know, asking them just to sign their signature, and you know, you had to do it a certain way. Like if they had to sign their name, they had to sign it legibly. I think they had to put their address down, and then you had to get a certain amount of pages. You tried to get as many signatures as you could, and then at the end of the day, those signatures were submitted to, I don't know, some sort of election commission, and they would go through the signatures, and if this was the really depressing part, was like if somebody put like Joe Blow on there and put the wrong address, or, you know, all your signatures would be invalidated.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So
That is
yeah.
scummy.
Yeah, so, you know, so we had to be really careful of that, you know, and so then it got to the point where, you know, the minority parties, just the election requirements, the ballot requirements got to be so stiff that, you know, now you don't see those parties on the ballot anymore. So
Yeah.
My aunt is running for state assembly in California. She's going to replace Autumn Burke, who's on her second term now, I think. Yeah, it's official. She's actually going to run. I've gotten her kind of into Rosa Luxemburg now, and I'm trying to get her into De Leon also, because those are the two main ideologies that I'm trying to set up my own party for, De Leonism and Luxemburgism.
Okay.
Luxemburgism? What does this mean?
Ism means like.
Yeah, can you fill us in on both of those? Because I don't know what those are.
De
Lisa,
Leon?
can you explain De Leonism? Yeah, can you explain him and I'll explain Luxemburg?
Well, it's pronounced De Leon. Daniel De Leon was an American socialist, and he was one of the big proponents of, I believe it was the IWW, International Workers of the World. There was a time, I might have mentioned this in our last conversation, Michael, there was a time in American history when there was almost going to be a socialist revolution. And it was going to be, at least in America, probably worldwide. And I believe May Day is sort of tied up in that too. Now, you know, it's so interesting how the capitalist class kind of tries to make May Day all about maypoles and singing and dancing around a maypole and collecting flowers and things like that. But back then, May Day was something else. And if you kind of look it up, you can look it up. It's quite revolutionary. And So Daniel DeLeon was a great speaker, and he was a great socialist, and he was considered a scientific socialist and Marxist, and he believed that in America you could apply Marxism to the American capitalist system to eventually create peaceful change, peaceful revolution via the ballot box. That was his belief. He did not believe in bloody revolution. So, you know, and so the Socialist Labor Party definitely used his platform, and that has been their platform all along, is you know, revolution through the ballot box, because according to our the preamble of the Constitution, I believe, you know, we can, if we feel that this form of government is no longer serving the people and the rights of the people, that we have a right to abolish it. And so that was what the Socialist Labor Party was all about, was, you know, abolishing the capitalist system and instituting socialist industrial unionism through the ballot box. So, you know, that's why we used to have to collect signatures, because we were trying to get on the ballot so that we could have that kind of social revolution, but the capitalist class just made it more and more and more stringent and more difficult. And so
it's almost as if the system is rigged, right?
Really?
Really?
No, it's scary, actually.
So are you talking about worker co-ops or democratizing the workplace? Something like that?
Yes. Yes. So think of it this way. Right now in America, we have states. So we have demarcations according to geographical arbitrary lines. We have states. And you could also get into the whole voting gerrymandering, because that's a whole nother thing, right? That's also making boundaries that are artificial. But so in socialist industrial unionism, it's based upon unions that start at the place of production, and then people are elected democratically in each trade, in each manufacturing plant, and then you have industrial unions, and it goes up like that. People are elected because they represent their unions, but it's not unions like what we have in America right now. I'm sorry, what?
Exactly what Richard Wolff was talking about. If you have ever listened to him. You know?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. So, you know, Richard D. Wolff, the economist?
Yes.
That's exactly what he's talking about. That's his solution.
I love that man. I love him.
Yeah, me too. And that's his solution to the problem in America right now. Replace corporations by worker unions, where the workers have the right and the democracy to say what the enterprise is going to produce, what the enterprise is going to do in the future, and so on. Because most of our times, I mean, we go to work, most of us go to work 5 days a week, maybe 8 or 6 hours a week, and we don't have any freedom. We don't have any democracy. We have an autocracy under which we live. You know?
Right.
That's not democracy. We have democracy in politics, but not on the workplace.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's so true.
Well,
So-
what's your name?
My name?
Yes.
My name is Fabrice.
So, Michael, could you put his info because and everybody else's Twitter info so that we, in the chat at the end?
Absolutely. You might not be able to see it on mobile, Lisa, but there is on the very side, on the sidebar, everybody put their Twitter handles in. But if you want, I can actually. I was gonna say I'll leave it in the comments, but then I only have the chat up now. But if you're able to see that, then you could follow everyone. But I could try to remember to put them in the comment section so that way everyone can follow. I'll just put like a little note saying the participants, because it's always nice to keep in touch.
Right.
After these.
Yeah.
Just because it feels refreshing to speak with like-minded people, especially I know like David, if you're kind of in a bubble where you don't really talk to a lot of other progressives, I know that this is like therapy for you because it is for me too. So I totally feel you.
Yeah. I mean, I have one friend who is a progressive, and that's about it. Well, two actually.
I'll be friends with you, David. You're like probably my age. You look my age. So
well, how old are you?
I'm 17.
Oh, I'm 17 as well. Nice.
Okay, then there you go. We're friends now. Follow me on Twitter. I'll follow you right back.
All right.
That's how you kids make friends nowadays.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, so Rosa Luxemburg. Rosa Luxemburg was a Polish Jewish Marxist philosopher. She lived from the late 1800s to the early 1900s, where she was tragically murdered by the Social Democrats of Germany, which is kind of why I have a grudge against Social Democrats. History repeats itself. But her underlying philosophy was that we need to have workers seize control of the means of production. But unlike Lenin, we cannot. Unlike Lenin, we can't just restrict political freedom, because one of her most famous quotes is about how freedom, when exercised by only a few and when restricted to anybody, is automatically a privilege, and it shouldn't be a privilege, it should just be a right. So one of her things that you can read about where she says a lot of that is Leninism or Marxism, and what's the other one? The Russian Revolution. She talks a lot about Leninism in those two. And she's opposed to Lenin's ideas, especially when it comes to how he organizes the working class, the proletariat. And the way Lenin organizes the proletariat is through vanguardism and democratic centralism, where you have a central committee for your party, but it's not all that democratic. It's like the Democratic Party of today, basically. It's not very democratic, and it just feels isolating because you don't know if things are going to actually turn out the way they're supposed to by an actual vote. So Rosa Luxemburg is completely opposed to this, and she brings up a better system.
She was incredible.
She says we need to work with spontaneous worker protests wherever they occur. That's one of the main things. The main thing is spontaneous. But one of the things that separates Luxemburgism to Leninism is Leninism will historically destroy other socialist movements. And as much as that's depressing, it's true. Leninists will usually destroy other socialist movements, such as the syndicalists in Catalonia. They had their own little government, and it was working perfectly. But then Marxist-Leninists and Soviets actually toppled them because they wanted to install Marxism-Leninism, which was created by Joseph Stalin. Leninism is a very complex thing. We're not going to get into it right now because I don't like Trotsky. Lisa, I hope you know Trotsky. I hate Trotsky.
Yes, I've heard of Trotskyism, but see, the thing is, you've got to understand that, and I'm not saying Lenin was perfect because I don't follow Leninism either. However, you have to think about historically, Lenin, he understood that. We talked about this last time. Is that Russia was not ready to have socialism because there was the majority of the population were agrarian, they were peasants. And so his idea, and it didn't work, but he did try, and he did have, I guess I hate to use this terrible old saw, is he had good intentions. He wanted to create, like what you said, like a vanguard where they called it the dictatorship of the proletariat. And people nowadays, when they hear that, they think, "Oh my God, that's really horrible." But what his goal was, again, I'm not saying it worked, because it didn't, but he did have a good intention, was that he wanted to have, I guess they called it the Communist Party back then, because at that time communism and socialism were both considered synonymous. Okay, he wanted to create a dictatorship of the proletariat where the Communist Party would represent the working class and try to develop the industries to create more of a proletariat rather than the agrarian peasantry, and to advance that. Unfortunately, it didn't work, and then Stalin. So you just got to think of it historically, and you know how people will utilize a name or a moniker for their own benefit. So then when Stalin came in power, he definitely took power. He took the reins of the Communist Party, and he became a dictator in the worst possible sense. And so he kept calling it, maybe he called it Leninism, and then there's people that called it, Leninism, and then of course Mao Leninism. So, just because somebody calls something doesn't necessarily mean it is that, or it is in its pure form, or in the form that it was intended originally. So, you have to be really careful about that. That's
I'm not generally opposed to Marxist-Leninists today, because I know a few Marxist-Leninists, and they're pretty great people, and I'm just speaking with terms of
I'm not a
past
Leninist, I'm telling you.
Just based on history, they'll generally attack people. So I'm not talking about modern Marxist-Leninists, but those of the past, the USSR, for instance.
Right.
They'll attack other socialist movements, and that just creates a lot of tension among the left itself, which is why when you get off into the far left, you'll find all these little different factions, and it's really interesting to see. And tactically wise, I'm opposed to Leninism, because I think you can have a type of party, but it can't be just a vanguard.
Right.
Because you can't put all your eggs into one basket; it'll collapse.
Well, now we have a proletariat. Now we have a fully developed proletariat, so it's different now. And I mean, if you look at Stalin and you look at the Communist Party in America, the actual Communist Party, they took their orders from Stalin, and yet there were some very good people in the Communist Party coming up in the 20s and 30s, etc., and there were some very idealistic people. They didn't realize, because this was before the internet, so they didn't get all their news, all the time. They got a lot of propaganda. And so, Stalin was doing some horrible things, and people in America just didn't know, because there wasn't that kind of information coming from Russia. And so, and then when people finally found out how horrible he really was, there were a lot of people in the Communist Party that were very disillusioned.
Yeah, they were completely destroyed after that.
I'm sorry?
They were destroyed after that.
Yes.
Destroyed the Communist Party and the Socialist Party too.
Okay, sorry guys, I had to leave for a second to let my dog out. He was scratching by the door to go potty, and I gotta let him back in. So give me just 1 sec.
Okay.
Go potty.
What's your name, hon?
My name?
Yes, darling.
Oh, funny.
So, can you spell that?
Oh, sure. In the chat?
No, I'm on my mobile phone, so I can't see anything. I can just see you.
So it's Fanny.
N?
F, F as in fascism. And
I'm triggered.
That was good.
I'm sorry.
Love it.
I just got triggered.
Hey, anarchism. And okay, I'm gonna stop these horrible words now.
It's funny.
Fanny.
Yeah, funny. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
She has jokes. Oh my lord. She got the jokes.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
She got the jokes.
Oh,
Praise Jesus.
Fabrice. That's my name.
But yeah, Rosa Luxemburg.
Yeah, sorry.
Awesome.
Rosa Luxemburg was basically opposed to Lenin in terms of tactic, and she essentially believed in having nearly unrestricted political freedom. I think she would have been opposed to threats of violence, for instance.
Right.
But yeah, she believed in unrestricted political freedom because she thought that without having political freedom, everything that made your country great would just die out. Every sense of being in your country would just essentially die.
No, she was a great, great person. Great human being, and she was aware of that.
The Social Democrats, they killed her.
Luxembourg is the name of a country too. That's to the south of Belgium. And it's absolutely not what you are talking about. It's the complete opposite. It's a tax haven for the rich right now.
You're hurting me, Fabrice. You're hurting me.
You're not funny to those.
I know, but because my brother works there, so.
I love it. We tend to get into these like deep dives into the like socialist ideologies and whatnot. I think we did last time too, and it's always really interesting because like you don't really hear this talked about unless you really listen to like some socialist type podcasts. Like you don't get the deep dives, just kind of like the Passovers, like on my channel and whatnot. I think this is always like really nice and interesting to kind of like really dive in deep because like they're so nuanced. There's so many different like socialist ideologies and whatnot. And I know that there's even like a lot of people don't know there's a difference between social democracy and democratic socialism. Like there's a lot. There's a lot. So it's I always think it's really interesting to hear what other people say, especially when we have Cam leading the discussion, because I kind of feel like you're our go-to guy who has all these different ones because you're writing on them. So
well, Lisa's good too. Lisa's pretty smart.
I'm proposing a Lisa and Cam podcast.
She definitely knows more than me.
A Lisa and Cam podcast would be great.
If she wants to, I might be doing a video soon. Someone asked me to make a video on why I think, where I think FDR went wrong, because people know that I love FDR, but in one of my
he went wrong. He went
videos.
Wrong.
No, I'm talking economically.
Yeah, he went very wrong.
Folks. They asked me about the economic issues.
Oh, because I was gonna say I got one thing off the top of my head that I could say I don't like about FDR that was really, 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 really bad and just
Japanese internment, allies with Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
he started that.
Yeah, we'll never have anyone that's 100% perfect, but like to have something that big like the Japanese internment, it's like, oh FDR, why?
Yeah. But FDR started our buddy relationship with Saudi Arabia.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there was a lot. There's a lot that you could talk about FDR that will kind of kill your soul if you move away from like the economic stuff. But that would be interesting, Cam, because if you said that you have like an economic critique of him, I think that would be fascinating.
They asked me where he went wrong, and my answer was he didn't abolish capitalism. That's it.
Of course not.
That's it. You're gonna get the cycle. You're gonna get the social democracy, then conservatism or neoliberalism, and then you're gonna have social democracy again. He should have just abolished capitalism. There you go. Issue solved.
I would guess though that might be a little bit more difficult than it sounds.
If the Democratic Party was secretly a Marxist party, I'd be part of them. I would secretly be a Democrat if they were secretly a Marxist party.
A lot of conservatives think they already are, Cam, so maybe you should join them.
Oh, Lord.
Remember,
I need a drink.
Ben Carson, Hillary Clinton is the epitome of the secular progressive movement. I'm like, shut up.
Oh, I hate Ben Carson.
It's like he's the epitome of the...
Did he accidentally get operated on, by a fellow brain surgeon when he
Probably
didn't
by
know
himself.
it?
Just
You
scramble
mean a
something
brain
in there.
surgeon dropout?
What, Carson? What?
One of his colleagues they were practicing on each other, and Ben Carson's colleague just scrambled some stuff up, like, oh shit, and then he came out conservative afterwards. That's probably me, and I'm sure he's
I
cool.
hate Ben Carson.
Carson, it's such an interesting. With Ben Carson, it's such an interesting situation because you look at what happened with him, and you think, he grew up poor.
Yeah.
His mom worked jobs and not very great jobs. He was on the social safety net. You'd think he'd be liberal. No, he's one of the most conservative people that I can think of, and it's really interesting.
You know what's interesting, David, is that with you kind of explained with your situation, you have empathy, but there's another group of people, kind of like the opposite of you. I like to call them the screw you, I got mine people, to where they don't have the empathy because, well, they started off impoverished, but then they were able to make it somehow, and now they're like, well, I got mine, so who cares about everyone else?
And
or maybe it's like, well, I made it, so they should make it too.
Right.
Like, I mean, I did, and it's the same for everyone.
I mean,
I think
that's probably why he's
conservative. That's the problem. They can't emphasize that people who didn't make it.
Right.
They feel like they made it and everyone else has to be the same as them.
Yeah.
Or something like that. I don't know.
Well, to how skewed their views are, I mean, Donald Trump has the same view. He says, well, I made it, so everyone else should have. All I had was a small $1 million loan from my dad, and look what I turned that into.
Can I get
what's in that head go small?
It's like, and when I think
You need to respect that.
when I think of $1 million, like me and my friend would like sit around and talk about like, well, would you chop off one of your arms for $1 million? I'd be like, yeah, I would. Would you like remove both your legs for $1 million? Yeah, I would do that. Like $1 million is like an unfathomable amount of money to someone if you're poor, but to Donald Trump, his perception is so skewed that, well, that's all I had was just $1 million. It's strange.
Forget that $1 million is so much more than 1 million crowns. So when someone says $1 million, I just think 1 million crowns at first. But then I remember, oh yeah, $1 million is like, okay.
It's quite a bit.
Yeah.
You could buy 1.5 houses in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm grossly rounding off the number now, but I think that $1 million is a little bit less than 10 million crowns. I mean, it's, I think that $1 is like 7 crowns or 8. It goes up and down. I can't math, so.
I can't math either.
Round it off to, okay, 10 or whatever.
That's why I chose social sciences, because I don't math. I don't do the math thing. You math?
I math.
I'm a musician.
I scored in the top.
Are you?
I'm a musician. I'm a musician, and we can only count to 12.
I'm a political economist, so.
Do you math, Cam?
I'm a political economist.
So you do math?
Oh, man.
A little bit. When I need to, yeah. But I hate math. I hate math.
I'm part of this rare group of people where I absolutely love math, and this is because of the fact that I'm huge into like the analytical side of many sports. So yeah,
that's great though.
Yeah.
See,
if you ever want to get into math, if you ever want to get into math, get into baseball.
I like math up until algebra, and I used to really like helping my nieces and nephews out, like with their homework and stuff. Because I especially like algebra. I just think because if it's confusing, I feel like I could present that in a really fun way on how to solve it. But then they start like moving on, and I'm like, yeah, I don't have time to help you when it's like I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Like,
you know what my rule for math is? Whenever you have algebra, just plug in the number 3. Plug the number 3 into the equation and see what happens. A majority of the times you'll get the answer. Just plug in 3.
Okay.
3 is a prime number, no?
Just plug in the 3. Just do it.
I'm just not gonna do it. I'm not even gonna try to solve it, Cam. I'm gonna give up.
I did like math.
But Mike, my SAT my SAT.
Yeah, you can't give that up. Yeah, you gotta take your SAT. So yeah, man,
I took my second one.
Did you?
Last week. No, Saturday. I took it on Saturday.
Oh man.
Making me get up early in the morning on a Saturday.
How do you think you did?
Ouch.
I don't know. Maybe I'm hoping 12 to 1300.
Nice. That's.
Well, yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Dave.
On my first run, I got like 1060, and I'm clearly very good at English because I got 600 on English.
Nice.
Yeah, one of my friends managed to get a 1400 on the SAT.
Wow.
Which is like in the top 5%, I think. I'm still unsure if I'm going to take the SAT because many of the colleges that I'm applying to actually don't require it. Because of the fact that I'm dyslexic, the SAT would probably destroy me.
Mm-hmm.
I've taken the ACE well on that, including scoring in the top 9% in the United States in math. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I hate all the standardized tests. I hate all of them.
Yeah.
How do you spell SAT?
SAT.
David, I wouldn't think.
That's literally it. All caps. SAT. All caps. SAT.
Oh, okay.
It's ESSAYTEE.
Thanks.
Why?
It sits in past tense. Kind of like that. I actually like math, but then I had to start counting. So that's
yeah.
I did the math part without a calculator. I did all the math without a calculator because I forgot my calculator.
Oh, I would just panic and just.
When I left, I had a headache. I had a headache when I left.
Yeah, I bet numbers make my head hurt. It's very. When you get to grad school, they make you, even if you're in social science, you have to do math. Like you just have to when you start doing research and stuff. And it always made my head hurt. And I'm like, it was the worst part of any research project when you had to create like regression models and stuff. And that's not really even math. You're just plugging numbers into a computer and it does it for you. But you just looking at the numbers, it just makes me feel uneasy. It's like I don't want to see numbers. I'm not a math person. I hate math.
Lisa, guess what?
I think she went AFK.
Dang. I was about to tell her that I'm planning on running for mayor in 2022, and I'm going to turn Los Angeles into a little socialist paradise. I'm going to abolish the wages system. Abolish it.
I think you said that before too. That was awesome. I like your plans and I like your ambitions too, where you have like the year planned out and everything. And your
that's the earliest year I can run.
How old do you have to be the mayor? It's 25.
I just looked it up. It's 18 or 21.
18.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah, 18. It's 18 in Cali. I mean LA specifically.
Okay.
Wow.
18 here.
Jesus,
so I'll be 22. And I'm planning on running once I'm old enough. So 2022 is going to be the year.
Nice. Well, hey, that's good though.
Yeah. I'll have a couple of my degrees already since I started college early. Speaking of which, I start college tomorrow again.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have 3 classes. One of them is online. I go to a community college. 2 of them are online. No, one of them is online, and one of the classroom ones is political and social history of the United States.
That's awesome. That sounds like
I'm taking poli-sci 2.
Nice.
I'm taking poli-sci 2 online. I wish I could have poli-sci 2 in class because I hate online courses. They're convenient, but I dislike just being in an online course. It's not my thing.
Yeah, I never took an online course, but I was a teacher's assistant for a couple of online courses. And just like being someone who has to kind of watch over the online course, I could never take one myself because you really have to be diligent. Like you have to each week you have to stay caught up with everything that you do. Like in the class that I was TAing for, you have to post, to the discussion board once a week. You have to complete your quiz by a certain day and time every single week. Actually, there was 2 quizzes in this class, one on Wednesdays, one on Sundays. So I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, how do these, because if you're already taking other classes, this is just too much. So for me, I'm not a very good self-motivator unless it comes to the podcast. But for something where you have to do it, it's really difficult. So I don't know that I think that they're more convenient because you don't have to leave your house. But I feel like they're more difficult in the end just because you really have to rely on yourself to get it together, and I think that's tough.
I did that. I did that last year with French 3, and it was a disaster. So,
people ask me, okay, how are you in college and high school at the same time and making all A's? And I say, I don't know. I just do it. That's literally it. I just do it.
It's a great strategy.
And high school at the same time?
Yes.
How does that?
It's good for me too. I can be specifically in Los Angeles. The LA Unified School District allows me to go to community college for free right now. So we have dual enrollment. So I'm doing dual enrollment, so I don't have to pay for community college or a 4-year college for a longer time. So with community college right now, I get those college credits for free. So I'm doing that instead of going into student loan debt.
Yeah. Okay. So you're basically
that sounds pretty good.
You're basically in high school, but you're taking college classes.
Like I go to an actual college too, and they have me taking
my daughter
all
did the
AP
same
classes.
thing. What you do is in your senior year, you just go to college and you are completing your coursework for your senior year at high school, but you're also doing your first year of college. It's really intense.
Yeah, the credits will go towards your college degree too. So it's really great. Like you're completing 2 things at once, but it is more difficult, and you really you can't be a slacker. In high school, you really gotta make sure that you stay on top of things to do it. And I didn't know about this until I started community college, and there were like high schoolers there. I'm like, what? There's high schoolers here? I don't understand. It's really cool. It's a really neat thing that does save people.
In my junior year.
That's awesome. That's good for you, Cam, because that's difficult to stay on top of things, especially like when you're that age.
Right.
Like for me, like in middle school, that's when I was like, okay, I'm done with school. I just kind of want to slack now. So like for high schoolers who are like that driven, like totally, you guys I look up to you guys. That's good. That's really great.
I mean, over
Lisa,
here.
You missed something amazing. Okay, so I said that in 2022, I'm going to become mayor of Los Angeles. And when I do, I'm going to abolish the wage system, set up a green LA, and just basically turn LA into a little socialist paradise.
I love that. I'd vote for you if I was a citizen.
0 emissions by the year 2024.
Nice.
I'd vote for you too, Cam.
David, DM me on Twitter and I'll give me a week, I'll turn you into a socialist. I will turn you into an actual socialist.
I am already. You got me.
I think
you're starting
into the choir already.
You've changed me a little bit today, so
yeah,
I can't imagine
I'm pretty convincing.
Yeah, I can't imagine being in a room with you and discussing politics. You probably convert me within 3 seconds.
I am a fierce debater. I want to debate Ben Shapiro and put him into the ground.
That would be phenomenal to watch.
When I was 15, I was still a social democrat. And even then, I could see through him. He was just lying. And it seemed like he knew he was lying. Especially when he made the argument, socialism is rape, and capitalism is consensual sex. And I'm like, okay. But you do realize that in order for capitalism to exist, you have to make your workers produce more than their hourly wage so you can sustain your own business and keep your profits rising, right? You do realize you're making people produce more than you give them, or rather than you let them keep, before you seize it from them violently through the capitalist machine. Right? Right, Ben?
I love your style, Cameron. Really, I love it.
My sarcasm works well with politics, because I put people in the grave when I'm sarcastic.
I love it. Okay, nice. So we are coming up on, we've been live for about 2.5 hours. We don't have any more viewers. Now I'm hoping that I sent out the watch link as well, the correct one, and not just the join link. So if all of you are watching like in advance and you weren't able to watch it live, I'm super, super sorry. It's definitely my fault because this isn't the first time I messed this up. So hopefully you're able to watch it as well. Although I did see a couple of viewers in there. I don't know if I'm one of them or if I count as one of them. So I'm crossing my fingers that everything was okay. If not, again, I'm super, super sorry. I need a technical person to like just do it for me. I'm like, I'm not very tech savvy. Yeah, I'm not very tech savvy.
I'm not either. I'm a teenager. I'm supposed to be good with technology. I'm not.
I'm a millennial, and I'm a disgrace to my generation.
Yeah, I have a friend who.
My mother had to teach me how to use a smartphone.
Really, your mother? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, I grew up with smartphones. So
she's 50. I think she's 57 or is turning 58 now or something like that. She had a smartphone like a year or 2 years before I did. And so it was kind of like I was the grandma sitting there and she was just...
I love that.
And I'm always like really late. Like I'm like a year behind everyone else on the memes usually. And like, so I'm like coming back with like a meme from like 1 or 2 years ago because I just heard about it.
I can't get over memes. Like I'll overuse the memes. Like I'm not over the "you are really dumb" meme, the Antoine Dodson meme. Yeah. I'll never get over that one. God. I can't get over that one. Right? He's great, isn't he?
Yeah. That whole interview. If you haven't seen that whole interview, you need to.
Oh, it was great. What was that, Lisa?
So I make my own memes now. I'm like so proud of myself.
Do you really?
Show me.
I love that.
So one of my students told me about it. She's like, I can make memes. And I'm like, what? And she says, yes. And so I'm sure there's different apps that you can get, but she told me about this one. It's called Meme-matic.
Oh,
so
okay.
Like
I haven't heard of that.
One word. And so like I've been this meme making machine now.
That's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
Does anybody want to see like
and I just get a picture from the internet and like I can crop it and then you can go to the app and then you choose your photo and then you can put words on it and it's pretty cool.
That's so cool. I'm trying to get
Trump and I put memes about him.
I'm trying to get everyone I know to do that. Go ahead.
Actually, with my own meme. And it was a picture of an award, which looked like a vagina, and two hands picking the vagina. So I put Trump in there.
No!
I only got a couple of parts of that, but the parts I did get were really great. Oh, okay.
I remember I saw the one with when they take a sound bite from when he said grab him by the pussy, and they put that in a clip from Home Alone 2, and when Michael Kid he goes up and like, do you know where the lobby is? And he's like down the hole and grab him by the pussy.
Oh my! I love that.
Yeah, that's really clever.
It's really sad that Trump was actually in Home Alone 2.
Yeah.
Oh, he was, wasn't he?
Just ago now, but
that was my childhood movie. That was in my childhood.
Yeah. Well, it kind of pops up everywhere in like the places where you least expect him. It's kind of like some kind of metaphor about something that just pops up.
A disease or something.
I don't know.
I remember I was watching a Rage Against the Machine video, and this was a song that they made around 2000, and someone in the video was holding a poster that says Donald Trump for President 2000, and of course everyone in the comments was freaking out over it.
I'm gonna have to check that out. Oh my god.
It's Now in the Fire by Rage Against the Machine.
Did they give him that idea? Because if so, they should apologize.
I don't know, but Rage Against the Machine
Actually, it's because Sharknado. It was Sharknado. He was supposed to play the fake president in Sharknado in like 2015.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, he started running.
Yeah. And it became more Cuban.
Liberalism and like, this and that. It's why we have Donald Trump, but now we know what it is. It's Sharknado, of course.
Yeah.
It was them all along.
And Rage Against the Machine. Even though Rage Against the Machine, I'm pretty sure their guitarist is a Marxist. So.
Wait, what? Immortal Technique. He's a rapper, and he's a socialist, and I adore him already. I'm pretty sure he's a communist.
Oh, really? Immortal Technique is?
Yes, he has a song called "The Poverty of Philosophy," and it's amazing.
Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, one of the lines in it just spoke to me as a black man because I know he's a black Peruvian, I think it was. Someone told me he was black and Peruvian.
I'm not sure.
One of the lines in "Poverty of Philosophy" spoke to me, and it was, "I don't want to escape the plantation. I want to go back, free all my people, hang the bastards that put me there, and burn the house to the ground."
Oh.
And that spoke to me.
That's awesome.
Okay.
I love
Like, it's
Ray.
dark,
I
but
have
it
a
spoke
book,
to me.
Cam. I have a book called Poverty of Philosophy.
Is it by Marx?
Pardon? I think it is by Marx.
Yeah, I know he has one of those. I think he wrote that. Yeah.
Poverty of Philosophy.
When I'm writing my economic books, I'm always referring back to a lot of his works. You'd be surprised. I don't even put annotations. Like, if I were to send you guys a PDF of the book that I'm writing so far, because the first part is just about 20 pages and it's explaining my economic theory on where the modern right wing came about, and I go into wage labor and how wages are determined right now, and a lot of it came from wage labor and capital, value, price, and profit, and a bit of it came from capital. I just didn't put any citations.
Oh, they're dead, so it's okay.
Make sure you cite your source, though.
Yeah.
You still got to cite your source. Make sure. I'm a grader, and I got to be tough on that. You got to cite your sources, though.
And
Make
use
sure you go back.
semicolons.
And use semicolons.
So
on Twitter, Lisa retweeted one of the things I retweeted about Emma Goldman, and I looked at it and I was like, oh wow, that was amazing, because I started learning about Emma Goldman, and I like
Twitter is on point.
I love Emma Goldman.
So speaking of Twitter, let me go back through really quick. So I have a comment typed up that I put in the chat. I'm going to just copy and paste it into the comment section for those of you watching who didn't get to see this live. So Vince's Twitter is @bird_Vince. Fabrice's Twitter is @Fabrice Bongartz. That's BONGARTZ. David's Twitter is @DavidBondy, BONDY, and then _. And then Odivia's Twitter is @OdiviaDraws. That's ODDIVIA Draws. And then Lisa's Twitter is @LisaMuse. Lisa, and then that's Muse spelled MUSE. So I'll put the comment down below the video. I already have it copied, so I remember to paste it. Hopefully I remember to do that. I'll just try to do it like right after. But yeah, if you guys can, if we follow each other, and if those who are watching follow, because a lot of the people who chat usually come back again for second chat. So it's just nice to kind of keep in touch with one another. I've been keeping in touch with Cam and Lisa on Twitter a little bit here and there. So yeah, it's really nice. One thing that I do before we want to leave, because we've gone on for about 2 hours and 40 minutes, so we should probably end soon. But one thing that I'll give you guys a preview on, it goes by fast, right? You don't really. Yeah. We've gone, I think, above 3 hours before, and I didn't even we just don't even think about it. But one thing I'll leave you guys with is I have a new podcast I'm starting with a couple of other progressives in late September, probably. You can kind of look it up right now at estabexiles.com. It's called Establishment Exiles. So it's with me, Ron Placone from the Jimmy Dore Show.
Oh, yes.
Elisa Neal. Have you guys heard of Elise? She is... No. So she's a Facebook progressive. She posts videos there that get so much views. She also was on the Tom Hartman show. She works for Bitcoin, does journalism for them. Also Progressive Blacksmith. You probably follow him on Twitter. His name is Kevin Asani. And then also we have Ashley Hudson, who's joining the podcast. She is running political campaigns in Kentucky. She actually was on the Patreon chat a couple times before. So we're starting a podcast in probably the end of September, at the end of September. And it's going to be 3 of us on at a time. And each week we just cycle through. And yeah, it's going to be fun. Cool. So just to give you guys the sneak preview of that, because nobody else knows about it, it's super secret now. But yeah, you could look at the website at estabexiles.com. And we even have a Twitter up so far. I don't think we have any followers just yet, because we're all kind of working out the details. I'm going to talk with Ron tonight, and we're going to kind of go over a little bit more. But yeah, a new podcast. So that will be kind of exciting. And I'll probably be sharing a bunch of clips through the Patreon page, because it's it's just a free podcast. There's no Patreon or anything. You just subscribe. So I think that you guys will probably get to see some of the clips first and whatnot. It's kind of like a bonus. So it's something to kind of be excited about and whatnot.
Oh, I'm so happy for you.
Dave, is your profile pic? Dave.
Yeah.
Is your profile pic a picture of Noam Chomsky?
Yes, it is.
And I just followed you. There we go.
All right.
All right, I followed all of you.
Make you a Marxist.
Yep.
So I followed all of you on there and whatnot.
Of, John.
Okay, but Mike, do y'all need a socialist perspective on there? Because I don't mind coming.
Possibly. We're going to have a guest every single week. As far as I know, we're not 100%. It might be every week or every other week. But we're going to have all kinds of... We might even get a conservative on there one week to just kind of like see what
Roast
they...
him.
Yeah, well, just to kind of... Not necessarily to berate anyone. I think it'd just be interesting to get like their point of view. You know what I mean? Because Alicia, who's part of it, she actually... One of her best friends is conservative. And they actually have pretty interesting conversations. So that'd be neat for her to like bring him on. And that way we can kind of like pick his brain and just see. Because, you know, a conservative millennial, at least, you know, I know probably not for David, but, you know, I live in Portland. So it's just, there's no conservatives, you know what I mean? Especially if you're a millennial. So I think it's always interesting to kind of like hear from their point of view. So it's just going to be kind of like a laid back podcast where we just kind of rant about politics. It'll be, you know, a lot of potty mouth language. And just, you know, overall fun. So yeah, I was excited to tell you guys about that. You guys are the first people to know about that. So super exclusive. So no. But anyways, if you guys had anything that you wanted to plug or share, feel free to do so really quickly. If anybody wanted to end on anything.
I just want to ask you all, what do you think about Trump right now?
Are we going to pray for him?
Excuse me?
At least he's putting an ugly face on everything that the U.S. has done. That's the one bright spot about this presidency.
Yeah, that's actually a good point.
I'm just going to point out right now, if it weren't for Trump, I would not be in politics.
Oh,
so, yeah.
Silver lining.
What was the question?
It doesn't.
What was the question? I didn't hear it.
The question is what you thought of Trump.
Oh, thought.
Oh, I think that he's going to end up making the economy collapse and lead us into socialism.
So there's a lot of silver lining here.
We're going to have a ton of socialists win. We're going to have a ton of socialists win, and I'm going to be one of them. And I'm going to be ready to run for president in 2036, and I'm going to turn the U.S. into a socialist nation. 2036. Look out, America.
Can I be your Secretary of Labor for one day?
You can be my Secretary of Labor forever if you want to. I want people to be my secretaries. Unlike Trump, who said, I don't want poor people in my cabinet. I want labor leaders in my cabinet. I want normal people in my cabinet. Like, sure, some of them will probably be politicians, but that's because they'll probably have expertise in a certain field that I need, like a doctor. I'll make a normal doctor my, for instance...
Good luck finding a normal doctor.
Hey, Cameron, you give me hope in the US, really. Thank you.
Like, if I was president, the country would look so dramatically different. The cabinet would probably be worth maybe 27 cents in a Pop-Tart. The whole cabinet.
Yeah.
Like, and if I was president, I would probably decrease the salary of the entire cabinet and myself, like Thomas Sankara did. In case you guys don't know, Thomas Sankara was an African who came to power in one of the countries, renamed it, and then immediately got to work by making the country fully food self-sufficient, decreasing his salary, and expanding women's rights. He did a couple of bad things too. I don't remember which ones, but I know they were really bad by my standards. But yeah, he made the country fully food sufficient. He added more women's rights, which is especially rare in Africa right now. And he was also a Marxist, and they killed him for that, and that was terrifying. But pretty much that's it.
Well, before you decrease your own and your cabinet's wages, maybe it seems a little bit more practical to just cut the military.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, because you already spent.
Right.
on that,
75%
and
cut.
it really affects. I mean, even us Europeans over here, because you know the wars, they make a bunch of refugees, and the refugees come over here, and then
Yes.
yeah, it has a.
It's funny. It's funny because I have a conservative friend, and she's pro-military. She thinks that we are actually a force for good, and she doesn't do apologetics, but I think she's genuinely just not knowing of how much our country has done in terms of the military. I told her a lot of the time what we do is we create these issues, or we just inflame the issue and make it even worse. For instance, the Iraq War ended up creating ISIL. We did that by toppling Saddam Hussein, who, even though I hate, he had a strong control over the region, and he kept the radical Islamists, especially focusing on the last part of that word, not Islamics or Muslims, radical Islamists, because they specifically believe in spreading Islam through military violence, which Muslims. So Saddam Hussein had a firm control over them, and he kept them, well, just unpopular. And then when we decided to topple the nation, what did we do? ISIL ended up coming to power. Yay! Mm-hmm. We made another problem for ourselves. So yeah, she's a conservative, awesome. And she thinks we can be a force for good, and I respect her for that. But when I thought my own foreign policy, I'm strictly just pro-defense. If we're not about to be attacked, don't do anything. Just it doesn't matter.
Yep.
That's what
unless we're being threatened
for the last 17 years, I think.
Like, do you guys really think that North Korea would fire a nuke at us? They wouldn't. They're just scared because we topple every nation.
I mean, they do have the capacity to hit Guam, but I doubt they would do it. Because if they attack the United States, they just get wiped off.
The guy is nuts, though. I mean, really, we've got a couple of at least 2, possibly 3 world leaders that are totally toys in the attic, and that's scary.
Yep.
So, you know, they're not Donald Trump and the leader of North Korea. They don't have judgment, and they're just man babies, and it's scary.
Man baby versus man baby. It's terrifying. Yeah.
Please stop being hostile in the world in general. We'd probably have a North Korea where people are fed. I honestly believe that, because a bulk of their budget goes to defense, because we're a constant threat to toppling them. Even though I hate Kim, I don't want people to starve. So I think that if we were not as offensive as we are, we would see a bunch of changes in the world. We'd probably cut the military budget by 75%. That's most likely what I see, since we wasted $1 trillion on a jet that doesn't even fly. We'd also spend more on housing and health care. We'd have free education throughout the country, especially since we have to pay taxes to keep public schools going. Why do we also have to pay tuition?
Healthcare.
Just a side note, real quick, is, you know, think about the people out in Texas, and if you get a chance to give any money to the Red Cross, or you know, try to help out somehow, even if you're not in that area. So
that's a great thing to bring up, actually. Yeah, because it's really sad. We kind of talked about it a little bit with David, because David is from Texas. It's got wrenching seeing those, because I was kind of looking through some of the photos today, and it's really sad.
There was a thing with like floating fire ants, and that terrified me. I'm terrified of clusters of ants. Like, I have trypophobia.
That's so random, but I love it.
I go into a panic.
Random.
I go into a panic. Like, there were fire ants just clustered on the water, and I almost had a panic attack.
I love it.
I think that's kind of their last, the last thing they're thinking about is fire ants down there, though. But
no, it gets really bad, especially since they're floating on the water. If you accidentally step through them, you are doomed.
I just looked it up. They actually exist. So.
Oh man.
Oh boy.
Okay. Oh. You know what? I gotta get those images out of my head.
Yeah.
What
anyways,
I'm thinking about is climate change. That's all I'm thinking about. Really.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot of angles to it, right? Like there's the human angle where you see the pictures of just like towns basically being underwater. And at the same time, you can't help but think, what caused this? How would this be, better if climate change wasn't accelerating so rapidly? You just kind of get that bombardment of emotions. Like first it was Charlottesville, right? And now we're dealing with Hurricane Harvey. So it's like you just move from one thing to the next. And it's like we're not able to like catch up. You know what I mean? It's just one thing after another. Things are just moving and moving and moving. So we're constantly just moving from one issue to the next. And that's kind of the difficult thing with right now with like planning. You know what I mean? Like with my show, because things move so fast and the news cycle changes so quickly to where if you do a show once a week, shows look dramatically different where I get back on and I still want to talk about Charlottesville, but now there's still a lot, Hurricane Harvey is coming up. But yeah, I'm really glad that you brought that up, Lisa, because I think it is important. Even if we don't live there, I mean, it could happen where we live. And, we've got to help people out. So yeah, I think the Red Cross is always someone who I donate to. And I'm sure that they have like a text line. I don't have it, unfortunately, where you can text and donate like $10 or something like that. But I mean, yeah, definitely a plug for that to,
you can find them on Twitter and, they've been posting a lot of stuff and how you can help out and
that's great. That's good to know. I'm actually not following them on Twitter, but I should because I only see what I've been seeing on it was on Reddit and Facebook so far. But yeah, I'll have to look on Twitter. I haven't really been on Twitter. But yeah, that's a good note to end on. If you guys can, who's watching, to kind of help out the people of Texas because it's a really unfortunate situation and we never know when it could happen in our area. So as much as we can do to help, from afar. Absolutely. So yeah, if unless anybody else has anything else, I think that would be a good place to end the chat.
Okay, Mike. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. As usual, it's so nice talking to all of you. It's nice seeing you all again. It was really nice to see some new faces too. Really awesome. These are always very fun. And like I said, we lose track of time. So we're almost at 3 hours. This is probably one of the longer ones. But it's always fun. And for those of you who are really shy, I would definitely encourage you to participate. I'm sure David and Odivia and Fabrice, there are newcomers, can say that it's not as bad, right?
No, it's definitely not. Awesome. And as someone who has social anxiety,
Mike, I just remembered one thing. I just remembered something.
What's that?
There's a guy running for California State Senate. His name is David Hildebrand. He's either a Democratic Socialist, a Social Democrat, or just a socialist. I'm hoping he's just a socialist, and he's running for California State Senate. So I'm going to send you a link to his Twitter later, and I want to see if you can possibly interview him, because we need to make sure he's popular. I don't want Dianne Feinstein in office anymore. I want that bourgeois politician gone. She's been there for what? How long? I think it was like, 30 years now. She needs to go. She's not doing anything for me. She's making my life harder.
Send me the link. Go ahead, Cam.
She went to San Francisco once and said, "Oh, I'm opposed to single payer." You're in San Francisco and you just opposed single payer. Are you really that stupid?
Yeah.
And I just remembered this right now because in the mail I got a thing from him. I just got a thing from him in the mail. The address is written by hand.
Awesome.
That's a politician.
The name sounds really familiar to me, but send me the link anyway, just in case, because there's a lot of politicians that are difficult to keep track of, especially the good ones. So yeah, definitely send me the link. Because yeah, I'd love to have him on the show. He's actually progressive. I'll have to do some research first to make sure he's good. But yeah, definitely.
Oh, Lisa, you'll love him too. He worked in construction, like an actual worker.
Oh, wow. Good.
So I'm hyped about it because I'm gonna be 18 when I can vote for him, and that's gonna be my first vote ever.
Yay.
I'm gonna be casting my vote for a socialist for Senate.
All right.
Exciting thing about my life right now. When I'm 18, I can vote for a socialist.
Nice.
Okay.
I love it. All right, well, I will see you all next time, unless you guys have anything else that you want to add. Thank you so much for participating. Thank you to everyone for watching. Yeah.
Yeah, Mike. I just thought that Bernie Sanders just sent out an email asking for people to promote universal health care in other countries. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna make a video for him on our healthcare system.
That would be great. That'd be great. Yeah, because we have to learn from other countries currently because they say it can't be done, but other countries have already done it. So yeah, I think that's great for people who already have it to speak out. Definitely. I love that.
Secondly, I just want to thank you for your show. You're awesome.
Oh, thank you. Hey, you're awesome. And
Thank
thank
you,
you so
Mike.
much for watching. It's always nice to speak with viewers.
Okay. Have a good one. Huh?
You too. And thanks for sharing a little bit about Belgium with us. I think that is awesome. So thank you all so much. Thanks to Cam, David,
Night,
Fabrice, Lisa, and Odivia. Thank you all so much. And also thank you to, I think it was Larissa who tuned in, and we have Vince as well. Yeah, I'm reminding myself again to post the Twitter links in the comment section. So for those of you who are watching this when it's not live, feel free to follow everyone here now. All right, guys, have a good day.
Awesome.
Good night, David. Good night, Fanny. Good night, Cam. Good night, Michael.
Good night. Take care, everyone.
You too.